You are.
Okay, I'd like to call the monthly meeting of the Public Safety Committee to order. It's March 22nd, 2022. Joe, will you help us with leading us in the flag salute?
Because I'm late?
No, because you're a patriotic kind of guy.
Where do you put the flag this week? Oh, there it is.
I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Hey, you're good. Come on. Mr. Attanian, would you do the roll call, please?
Yes, sir. Committee member Janis.
Present.
Committee member Leffler is not present. Vice Chair Hightower.
Present.
Chair Bercuda.
Here.
And Captain Benfield is here. Chief Capobianco is not present at this time, but I believe he will be here later. We'll make a note of the time that he arrives. And Captain Malott is not going to be with us today.
Okay. Good. All right. We showing a quorum. We'll keep on going here. Regular orders of business. We have a special presentation that goes along with our disaster planning and preparedness program. I'd like to introduce Becky Fiery. She's the executive director of the Orange County Red Cross. And Dave Adams is here. And we're going to talk about what the Red Cross does, right? Good.
Well, thank you so much, committee members, community members. We really appreciate the opportunity to be here with you today, share a little bit more about the work of the Red Cross here in Orange County and internationally. Excited to have Dave Adams with me today. He's our Emergency Management Agency and Government Disaster Operations Liaison. I had to write that down. So again, want to give you a little overview of the work that we do and some of the resources we have available for residents here. So next slide, please. For the Red Cross, everything comes back to our mission, which is to prevent and alleviate human suffering in the face of emergencies by mobilizing the power of volunteers and the generosity of our donors. Next slide, please. So I want to highlight some of the work that we do, again, nationally as well as locally. So more than 24,000 people are assisted by the Red Cross daily in our different lines of services. I do want to call out a couple of local statistics down here at the bottom. So we did assist 164 families last fiscal year here in Orange County who are impacted by disasters. We collected nearly 64,000 units of red blood cells to support hospital patients here in Orange County. And we have an incredible core of 2,300 volunteers, over half of which are actually youth members that are at our Red Cross clubs throughout the county. I'm going to go into detail about these different lines of service in the next few slides. Next slide, please. I do want to point out again from our mission statement, we mobilize our incredible volunteers, and actually 90% of the workforce of the Red Cross is volunteers, and the generosity of our donors. We're really proud as an agency that 90 cents of every dollar is spent to deliver care for the organization. Next slide. So one of the areas that is probably most familiar, especially to this group, is around the work that we do with disasters. And I know this is top of mind for a lot of us, especially coming off of last month's fire in Laguna. I think Chief Fennessy put it really well. We no longer have a fire season, we have a fire year. And we're seeing that certainly across the country. We see that more people are being impacted by disasters every year. And it's been growing exponentially. And it's the same communities that keep getting hit over and over again by these disasters. Next slide.
Becky, that previous slide, how much of every dollar goes to relief efforts or whatever?
90 cents of every dollar.
90%?
Yes.
Wow, that's amazing.
So the majority of the disasters that we actually respond to here in Orange County are single or multi-family fires. And we have an incredible team of disaster action team is available 24/7 to respond to those emergencies. And Dave was a part of that incredible group. So we work really closely with our first responders who will notify us if there's a fire, and then our teams will deploy and provide assistance to those families, some small financial assistance, comfort care items, health support, mental health support for those individuals as they've been impacted. If more than 30 individuals are affected in that fire, it then grows to a mass care or sheltering incident, and that's when we would work really closely with the city to set up and support those impacted. Again, depending on the size and the scale of the disaster, a city may have to operate independently for 3 to 5 days until mutual aid arrives, just as we prioritize who needs help the most in that disaster. But again, this is why communication ahead is so important and why we really value our partnerships and the conversations around preparedness and planning. And we do offer free training to our cities on mass care. And again, if multiple jurisdictions are involved in it, we may have, say, one shelter that's supporting multiple communities to support everybody that is impacted. Next slide, please. So preparedness is a huge part of the work that we do around disaster response. We have a host of programs that are available for community members, all free of cost. Again, we want individuals to think about, what am I going to do if a disaster strikes, and be able to be resilient for up to 72 hours in the event of a disaster happening. So we offer Red Cross Ready programs in the community regularly. We can do those virtually. We can also do those in person. We're excited to have in person again. And we have a really fun program for our youth. We have Prepare with Pedro for our kindergarten through 2nd graders, and then we also have Pillowcase Project, which is for our 3rd through 5th graders. Really important program because we found that as we educate kids, they take that conversation back home and talk to their families about it, and then the families help put that plan together. Sound the Alarm is another program you may or may not be familiar with. We're really excited to be able to resume this in person. It was on hold with COVID. But this is a program. We install free smoke alarms in vulnerable communities. We go out, we provide home fire education. We'll check existing smoke alarms to see if they work, and then install new ones as needed. And since we've implemented this program, we've had over 1,000 documented lives saved of homes where we went in and installed smoke alarms that then notified the family. And it's great. I went out and did an installation at a senior mobile home park last month, and in the 8 homes that my team went into, there was only 1 working smoke alarm.
Oh.
So we know this is important, and they're excited to be doing it. We also have a Ready Rating program for our small to medium-sized businesses and schools that we can help them with as well. And if anyone is interested, you can go to preparesocal.org. There's a whole bunch of resources available if you want to look at how prepared your own family is as you look ahead. Next slide, please. So Biomedical Services, this is another area that people are generally pretty familiar with in the work that we do. The Red Cross provides nearly 40% of the nation's blood supply. You may have seen this a lot in the news, especially in January. We actually hit the worst blood shortage that we've faced in over a decade as a result of the challenges that we've faced in the pandemic with our blood supply. That's due to a number of different reasons. Largely, a lot of our blood supplies a lot of our blood drives were supported in businesses who transitioned to remote work. 30% of our blood supply here in Orange County actually comes from pre-pandemic came from our high school and college students. So with the campuses closing, we saw thousands of blood drives get canceled. And so had to do a lot of transitioning in the way that we got the word out to donors, making sure people understood they still could give blood in the pandemic and that it was an essential service. And I threw this in because I think it's really important to highlight that transition. Actually, 61% of our blood drives throughout the pandemic were from our government and civic partners, and community organizations. So it was a really big shift, and we are so appreciative of our community partners that helped support us over the last 2 years. In particular, the city of San Clemente, who's done just an incredible job of hosting regular blood drives. In fact, collecting just over 1,400 pints of blood in the last year. So That's a huge impact, especially when, each blood donation can save up to 3 lives. So we're really, really grateful for our partnership with the city. Next slide, please. So this is an area that maybe is not as familiar with people for the work that we do as an organization, but the Red Cross is in fact the oldest veteran and military support organization in the United States. We work with our service members throughout their entire military career, working with them as they get ready to deploy. And one of the big areas we support is while they are deployed. If something goes wrong, we operate what's called the Hero Care Network. So if a service member is deployed and, say, has the birth of a child or the death of a loved one, that family member can contact our Hero Care Network, and they will get that emergency communication to wherever that service member is deployed within 6 hours of receiving the communication. And then they can work with that family if needed to coordinate travel home. So that's a big way that we support. That Hero Care Network can also support with financial assistance. If a service member is facing hard times, they can contact the Hero Care Network, and we work really closely with the military with respect to that. And then also in recovery, part of how we were founded as an organization was on the battlefield. We provide, aid to the sick and wounded. We have the largest volunteer base in military facilities across the country. And we also provide reconnection and resiliency workshops for service members and their families as they're, again, transitioning to life after deployment. Next slide, please. Also another area, many of you probably have taken a Red Cross course at some point in your lives, but we do offer first aid, CPR, AED training out in the community. We have, especially down here, really important, our swim and lifeguarding training that we do. We also have a whole suite of free apps that are available in all of your app downloads. I highly recommend, especially the emergency app. You can download it to your phone and set it to your location, and you'll get a notification on your phone if there's any emergencies in your nearby community. Our tsunami warning popped up right away a couple months ago for me. And we also have a first aid app, which will walk you through if something comes up, what to do, how to handle that situation. Next slide. All right, and what's unique about the Red Cross is we are one of 187 Red Cross or Red Crescent societies throughout the world. I can talk. We're part of a global network that provides aid wherever emergencies strike. I do want to touch base because I know it's top of mind for everybody on what's going on in Ukraine. I'll touch on that in the next slide, but a couple other things that we do in this international scope. We have a really incredible program called Restoring Family Links. So if somebody is separated from a loved one due to conflict or war, they can go to their Red Cross or Red Crescent Society in their country and let them know. And then we work with the society in the other country and can help reconnect those loved ones. And we've had some really incredible stories here in Orange County of loved ones who've been separated for 20 plus years and haven't been able to see them. So really incredible. We also have a huge initiative around rubella and measles vaccinations and work with our global partners to do that. So again, next slide, please, sorry. Again, as part of this global society, I do want to touch base on the humanitarian crisis going on in Ukraine and how the 3 independent bodies of the Red Cross sort of work together. You've probably seen some of this in the news, but the International Committee of the Red Cross, they are based out of Switzerland. We're governed by the Geneva Conventions, all that you've seen with humanitarian law. That's something that we, as Red Cross societies, are assigned to uphold. And the ICRC is actually the agency that is in the ground in Ukraine right now, providing resources to Ukrainians that are impacted by the crisis, for delivering food, water, helping to keep roadways open to get people out of the country. We've been providing first aid training to individuals over there. The International Federation of the Red Cross and the Red Crescent Societies, they are the agency that is really leading the charge with those who've been displaced, the refugees from Ukraine that have now gone into neighboring countries. So they're leading that initiative and the work that's being done there in conjunction with the other national societies. So the the Polish Red Cross, the Romanian Red Cross, all of these countries around, they're in conjunction with the IFRC are providing food, water, basic supplies, and things for children. They're providing them with mental health care. They're providing them with SIM cards so that they can stay in touch with their loved ones. As you can imagine, this is an evolving situation, and this is, just since the crisis erupted. I will say the ICRC actually has been in the country for the last 8 years. They're present in any areas of conflict and have been providing food and water. So again, that's kind of an overview of what's being done there. Additionally, like the American Red Cross, we've deployed some of our international crisis responders to the neighboring countries, and they're helping support there. And then additionally, our service to the armed forces team, we've deployed several individuals to help support the military teams that are now present in those areas as well.
If someone wanted to donate specifically for Ukraine, do they do like the American Red Cross, or what do they do?
Yeah, we as a national society, you could make a donation to Red Cross with that designation, and then we would send the funds to them directly.
90% of the dollar goes to them.
Yes, yeah. So, next slide. So for more information on any of the things that I touched base on, we have our website you can always go to, redcross.org, SLOCAL, I referenced it, but preparesocal.org is also a great resource. We also encourage you to follow us on social media. We post regular updates on what's going on. Twitter's great if there's ever an emergency. We repost information from our emergency responders that we work with and try to get information out to everybody as quickly as possible. And then next slide, I included my contact information on here as well as Monica Ruzic. She's our disaster program manager. So I do encourage you to reach out if you ever have questions. But now we'll open it up if you do have some questions. I know that was a lot of information that I just went through for the group.
Regarding the community, it's my understanding that the Red Cross helps with the mass care centers, but does not set them up as far as designation and approvals and permits and stuff like that. They'll staff it, but it's the city's responsibility to make those designations as far as where it's going to be and all those, and you got to do that before the disaster. Doesn't happen automatically, right?
Yes, Dave, you want to jump in on that?
Yeah, my name's Dave Adams. I'm a volunteer at the Red Cross, like almost everyone else at the Red Cross is volunteer, as Becky pointed out. Yeah, the actual site locations for shelters and all, it's a combination of the cities working with the Red Cross, and we will go out and work with your city staff and identify places, schools, churches, other facilities, because we want to be ready when stuff hits the fan. We don't have time to sit and think, wonder where we should go. We know San Clemente, we can go this, and this, which was closest, or is going to serve the most people. And I want to congratulate you guys for being forward and developing a plan and getting all that in place. I was a city manager for 16 years, retired out of San Juan Capistrano. We didn't have anything like that because I didn't know what Red Cross is all about. So you're to be congratulated for taking that step, at least taking that first step. Because usually something bad happens, they call 911, Sheriff's Department, what are you going to do? And they type the fire. They can do certain things, but they can't staff up a shelter for X number of days. Whereas we could help train you, get you ready to go, and just be there to support you as you need other things. So that's why I'm here. Plus, because of COVID, I hadn't gotten to meet Becky yet, so she's my boss, so this is really exciting.
Is there anything specific you would like to see the city of San Clemente do to help you in this, in your effort, and to make us safer too?
I could speak to one thing. I know that the city has contracted with a firm that is also working with Dana Point and San Juan Capistrano to get the CERT programs going again. Ours kind of petered out. I'm not sure where yours is at. And so that's a good group of people that's ready to go and are trained. And then the other would just be to let us know if there's things that we can do to help you help you do all that, especially picking the sites. That's a biggie. We want to have that in place, approvals and contracts and agreements and everything in place. So if it hits, we can be up and running. Because when it happens, the biggest surprise for me being with Red Cross is how much work goes occurs before the event happens. You see the fires break out of Santiago Hills or wherever, and you go, oh, I wonder what's happened. I'll tell you, we already have trailers on site for a couple days knowing that it could happen. We have people standing by. If big winds are going to come up this weekend, we'll have people standing by waiting for a phone call to respond. So, but the main thing is if we can get your groups up and going, and if we can train them through us to help with the shelter, that's our big priority.
The CERT trainings, they're starting up actually next month.
Good.
I think it's like April 25th or somewhere around there, so about a month away they're gonna
Awesome.
get that going.
That's great.
I know there's separation functions in like FAM and Red
Right.
Cross, but you interface at all? I mean, it seems like you'd have to just about, Can you kind of talk about that a little bit? I just don't understand.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
I don't know if there's a certain.
There is some crossover, but most people, when something bad happens and fires are going or floods are going, they don't think of FAM, which is Family Assistance Ministries. For those who don't know them, they're located here in town, and some other groups like that. They're really looking to police and fire and the Red Cross and who's going to help us out and who can do it quickly.
You're more of a temporary thing to get people back on their feet, and FAM might be more permanent.
Exactly.
And we work really closely with partners, and anytime there's a disaster, to make connections for individuals with the other agencies as well.
How do you work with the city of Laguna Niguel? They have really good emergency response centers and so forth. Are you working with them?
Another person that does what I do is working with Laguna Niguel, but yeah, they're very proactive. Laguna Beach is very proactive. A lot of their staff, and of course City of Irvine, because they got money. So they send a lot of people. So if something big were to happen, they're ready to go. And if something big were to happen in another city, we'd contact them and say, hey, can you send some of your CERT people or some of your shelter people that we've already trained over, and we'll cover the whole county and even more. We reach out to San Diego, the desert. That's all in our region that Becky heads up.
Good job.
And I would say too, if there's an opportunity or you ever want us to do any kind of personal preparedness education for the community here, that's something we'd be happy to set up as well.
Yeah. We're trying to get the Neighborhood Watch program going again, like everything else, the CERT program and all that. And if it becomes fairly successful, it'd be a nice platform to develop and recruit RACES, CERT, Red Cross, volunteers, and it goes on and on and on. So that it gets out in the community. So
Yeah.
we got a lot of work we're doing too, but we need you to work as a partner with us to get this job done, right?
Yeah.
Because now the South County here, if we have a big earthquake and it cuts off the rest of the county, do we have resources and stuff in place down here that you can rely on?
We do. We have, what do I want to call them?
Storage containers.
Storage containers at numerous sites around
Pre-positioned.
that we can pull in and get fired up real quick. Usually, the way my experience with the Red Cross here locally has been, usually within an hour, if something big happens, we've got people rolling in some degree with a shelter kit or something ready to go. We work real closely with Sheriff's Office. They're very keen. They're in charge of all of this stuff for the whole county. And we sit at the same table with them when it hits the fan. We sit right with them and know what's going on and help out where we can.
Yeah, well, the police departments, fire departments, they seem to have their acts together pretty well in a crisis situation. But from my understanding, hospitals are not quite as responsive. I mean, is there anything you do with the hospitals to help with their issues in a disaster when the people are coming in and the ambulances and so forth?
Yeah, we do have one of the groups of people, again, volunteers that we have is a whole medical team. We've got certified nurses that would be at shelters if need arises or assist with the hospitals and stuff. But It's an interesting kind of the Catholic criteria, interesting kind of network that goes on, and
Yeah,
you don't
yeah.
think of each other much until it happens, and then you think, well, that works good. We need to tweak this. You know.
The best time to know the person across from the EOC is to introduce yourself before it happens, and then try to get some cooperation before and after. So, thank you guys. Appreciate you
Yeah,
coming
thanks
down.
very much.
You bet.
Absolutely.
This is really, it's good to know this stuff, and gotta hold this stuff as in our library so that people want to know what is the Red Cross, and we can actually
Yeah.
provide some information for them and some direction. So,
Any other questions for us? I'm a volunteer. Becky's on the clock. So she's got another meeting to go to. But
You're ready to get out of here.
So I'm a resident of San Clemente, so again, really appreciate all
Are
of
you
you.
related to Jonathan?
I am.
Wow.
That's my husband.
He played Little
Pretty
League for me
close.
years and years ago.
Oh, really? He's
He's
coaching
coach.
our sons now in Little League. So.
Yeah, and my grandson is playing. My son's the coach. Yeah,
Oh, how funny.
He'll know Andy Janis. Yeah,
Oh, I'm sure he will. I will. I will share that.
yeah that's funny.
Small
Nice
world.
meeting you.
Yes.
Yeah, super. You can remain, and you're welcome to stay, or you can.
I'll stay for a little bit. I just have to step out in a little. I can stay for a little bit, but I'll step out in a few.
Not a
Thank
problem.
you. We
Yeah.
appreciate the
There's a
opportunity.
binder, Nick. It's Cindy's folks one.
Yeah. You can, okay. Next on it is approval of minutes from February 22nd.
Yes, Chair. Staff has a couple corrections, and they're relatively minor with the exception of one that involves a couple sentences. But I'd like to walk through those recommended changes for the committee's consideration. If they would rather that we just revise the minutes, bring them back next month, we can do that as well. But I think this is easy enough. So on the first page, under public present at the meeting, William Krutinger is listed. However, he was not in the capacity of being a Human Affairs Committee member.
Okay.
What is he now then?
So,
Oh, this is the revised version.
no, this is not the revised
Oh.
version. This is, I'm requesting changes
Okay.
to this document. The first is William Krutinger was not here on behalf of the Human Affairs Committee or in a capacity that committee would have him as a member. He was a member of the public, so it would just be striking Human Affairs Committee member.
Gotcha. Okay.
From that, the second one,
Okay. Down here, from strike Human Affairs Committee member, because he was doing racy stuff, not Human Affairs.
the second one, actually the second and last one, is on page 3 under new business. The first item that was discussed under this topic was the committee's review and recommendation of a fourth firefighter ordinance, and so I would like to just add that item, the OCFA fourth firefighter, with a note that says the committee received a report and made a recommendation to the City Council to initiate a code amendment to require a fourth firefighter on the OCFA fire vehicles.
Great.
Those would be the changes.
Okay. Is there any other,
That's a good addition, yeah.
any other
Yeah.
suggestions on corrections or additions? Is it proper to say go ahead and make those changes? We'll go from
Yes,
there.
based on what I said,
Right.
the minutes, the recording will reflect the exact verbiage, and we'll just add that to the minutes.
Perfect.
Yeah,
But,
he had
yeah.
a lot of statistical stuff he presented,
Yeah.
besides just the 2 in and 2 out sort of thing. Yeah.
Yes, there was a lot of discussion. The city, if you've been following with the council meetings, the council has been clarifying the minutes and how they would like those taken. Our policy requires action minutes, which really is just a reflection of the specific actions taken. We've been adding a little bit more detail, really just for customer service. Additional detail can be added about the conversation, but the action was a report was received and a recommendation was made.
I'll make the motion to change the minutes as Adam quoted. It's on tape. That's enough.
I'll second.
All right. All in favor, raise your hand.
Aye.
I think we got it. 3-0. Okay. Ready, Adam? On the next one?
Ready to go?
We're going to oral and written communications. I want to read a little paragraph here. Members of the audience may address the committee on matters of public interest which pertain to the city and are not otherwise on the agenda. If you wish to speak, please raise your hand and, after being called upon, if you desire, state your name and or city residence for the record and make your presentations. Please limit your presentations to 3 minutes. So, Mr. Garrett?
Hi, Paul Douglas,
Douglas.
Oceanside, California, and I'm here representing the owners of the Boca Bluffs, which is the 2.5 acre piece, acre and a half, at the end of La Rambla. And we have a definite concern for safe activity on the bluffs. We're not sure what the answer is. I kind of flippantly said increase your insurance. I don't know if the city really has an answer for the safety out there, but sooner or later, and I think there have been a few injuries out there, but sooner or later someone's really going to get hurt bad, and it's going to be a lawsuit for us and for the city, I think. We have an application pending with the city, and part of the application is to create a very safe lookout. That comes with approvals at a time later. In the meantime, we're concerned. Now, the owner said last week, let's put up a fence. I said, don't do that. No, you can't do that. I don't know what the answer is, but it's a very unsafe site to be left alone. Maybe we can put a fence at the perimeter of the bluff to keep someone from going over. I don't know what the answer is.
So the end of the cul-de-sac there at La Rambla, that's,
Yes.
you own that, you're part of that property? You
We
own
own
that?
all of it.
What's that?
We own all of it.
All of it?
All of it,
And
yeah.
how many lots are there?
7.
7.
Now, the people, Tom and Kerry are here, they own the end lot, and they're very concerned about the noise and the traffic and so on and so forth. And I can understand that because I was representing the owner of 314. And after he rented the house across the street and lived there for 6 months, he sold his lot. He didn't want to live there because it's just too much noise and it's just too much traffic. And you know, the police services can only do so much. I mean, they have a budget and they have other interests. So he sold the lot and doesn't want anything to do with it.
So why would you be against the fence? I didn't understand. What you said.
Well, I wouldn't, but I think the Coastal Commission might.
That's what the problem is with the Coastal Commission. So if you're gonna start construction on that property, will you have a fence up?
Well, that's going to have to go with the territory. People will oppose it. They're going to yell and scream. They're going to contact Adam and yell at him. But we have to have a safety fence up, and that's just a temporary setback that we fence it during construction. And of course, we'll try and get construction done as quickly as possible.
And you
But then
said-
we'll complain about
And if
it.
this all goes through, you're gonna have a lookout, you said?
Yes.
And is that for Coastal Commission because the Coastal Commission is gonna require a lookout, or is it because of the housing?
Yeah, they're very big on coastal access and public lookout. Very big.
Yeah, we have a real traffic problem in that area right now. Not only drugs going on, kids are all night, and vandalism and on and on. I'm the neighborhood watch captain of that area.
Oh, okay.
And so I'm really aware of what goes on over there, and I think the chief is too. So, all right, when do you think construction will start? Aren't you even close to that right now?
Oh, we're a ways away.
So we're not even sure the project's gonna go then.
Yeah, we're a little ways away. I can't even guess, to be honest with you. We've
So
had a
what's
few
your plan?
setbacks.
Is your plan 7 houses? Is that what the
Oh,
plan?
yeah, we're fully designed, and And we're in the middle of the process, and we've had a couple of change of directions with the project, which is for the improvement. But they're concerned about what's gonna happen next week. Is that an attractive nuisance? I don't know. Maybe it is.
Well, it's not a beach access there.
Well, some people are using it for beach
No, I
access.
understand that, but I don't think coastal would require that as a beach access.
No, we're working on a beach access down Boca Up and Hill. We have that,
The little one down
providing
there.
that also. Which includes a switchback at a ADA Title 24 grade, so that anybody who wants to go to the beach in a wheelchair can. So we're addressing that issue as well as the lookout issue. But again, that happens in time with construction. But we're concerned about what's going on out there today. As you know, you obviously understand the issues.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Okay.
Well, I don't understand, I guess, the issue. What is the specific safety concern or concerns that you're referring to? Is this people falling off a cliff and?
Yes.
and
Yeah, there's been a few injuries out
It's,
there.
I don't know the area.
The trail, the makeshift trail down.
There is a trail there.
Well, it's not a,
It's
it's
an informal trail that the
You-
coastal
imagine a
commission.
bunch of deers walking up and down
Prefer
up
to
there, you
see
see a
it.
deer trail, and that's what it's kind of like, people going up and down.
Uh,
And it's pretty steep in a lot of places, and, yeah, it's not safe.
It's not a legal trail, it's unsafe, I think, but you can't stop people from doing it, and they're gonna do with it. You know, especially late at night, it's not lit, it's dangerous, drugs, alcohol, partying, it's just a matter of time before somebody falls and breaks their neck.
Bicycles use the trail.
No, it's too steep for bicycles.
They
No, they do.
100%.
I stand
They
corrected.
drive motorcycles.
Over our property.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right, let's, we're gonna try to keep that 3-minute type thing.
I'm done.
Okay, anybody else want to speak?
We'll let Tom go next.
Okay, very good. So my family lives at 318 La Rambla.
Would you identify yourself?
I'm sorry?
Identify
Oh,
yourself?
I'm sorry. Yes, Tom Garrett.
Tom Garrett, okay.
So my dad was the second doctor here in town after World War II. Came to town in 1947. Bought 316 La Rambla in 1952, where I was born. And at 6 months old, we moved to 318. So we've seen the change of the world. We've seen the change of the neighborhood. As Joe says, and as Paul says, unfortunately, the environment has changed radically, where it's now become a 24/7 area of no longer tranquility, crime. I've identified for Adam in an email the numerous municipal code violations. In addition to that, as Paul says, we have drug use, public sex, public defecation and urination, no respect for private property or noise constraints. As Paul says, the Sheriff's Department can only do so much. It continues to have, because to help you visualize what's occurred here, is that this bluff used to slowly slope down to the lower development La Ladera. But when I was a child, the development was coming in below us, and they sheared off this cliff, which destabilized everything. There used to be 2 houses next to us. They first slid towards the ocean, and then one day when I was in grade school, the whole hill dropped 13 feet straight down on our property line. So we've lived through the public use of the property over all this time, but this continues to be the city right-of-way that the city has not been willing to enforce in terms of any type of curfew, any type of cleanup, because of the use of this area, which has become, as I say, 24/7. So at any given time, we can have 100 people out here. We can have, as you were asking, e-bikes, mini bikes, Harleys, and what's now occurred, which is an adjunct to the problems that we're having, is that the historic, although as Joe says, it's not the public access for beach purposes and coastal commission purposes, which is down La Ladera, down the street, and then accessing here. But historic access has always been this way. But now the public, because of the beach path and the railroad crossing, our property extends all the way down to the beach path. It's now a daily trespass over our property and bikes, causing further erosion and further concerns in terms of the stability of the coastal bluffs and the destruction of the coastal vegetation. This all used to be vegetated with what's protected by the Coastal Act.
Until the path went in.
Until the path went in. And so now we can have people hurting themselves. EMTs had to help this gentleman, and it took 8 people to get him out on the path. So in addition to the municipal code violations, as I say, we have a whole sort of other illegalities going on in connection with the illegal parking. We've had assaults and beatings, which is one reason that Paul's other client moved out. He tried to intercede in what was nearly a fatal beating, and even one of the assailants, we had heard, ended up being in a coma. We have illegal fireworks at all times of the night. Just a couple days ago, there were 2 e-bikes stolen, and we thought the couple was going to show up today, because the captain's working on trying to deal with those perpetrators. But the difficulty with what we have, and Joe's, we're on the 300 block, Joe's on the 200 block, is that, yeah, we have a changing world with people that are less respectful of law and order, more disrespectful about private property rights, etc. But it's gotten to such a degree now that I'd like to start the dialogue being respectful of the 3-minute time limitation with you in future meetings. But we're just wondering if Paul and Mike and their clients' prospects for the redevelopment of the area, which would bring tranquility and harmony again, don't go through. If there's anything the city can do to help the homeowners on the 300 block of La Rambla deal with the illegal parking, the congregation out here into all hours. And so what we were hoping, as far as a big ask to the city, is there any way to impose or enforce the curfew that's non-existent here on this property, because the city just doesn't follow the continuation of the city right-of-way. So as we know, on the beach or on the pier, curfews at 10 o'clock midnight, but this will occur till 2 or 3 in the morning in terms of the noise, the parking, which then interferes with, again, tranquility, people's ability to sleep, etc. Another big ask would be if there's any way, and I've asked the city before, can you help? Because if it weren't for the volunteers like our Red Cross people and you gentlemen volunteering to help the city, this would be a dump area. So after Friday and Saturday nights, it takes volunteers either in the neighborhood or outside the neighborhood. We've seen kids from Saddleback come over here to try to clean things up. So not only is it left on the horizontal part, but kids throw things down the bluff. You can see it from the beach path. It's unsightly, it attracts rodents. So we've asked the city, is there any way that the cleanup crew down on the beach path could help clean up here? Could we put trash cans, etc.? But nothing's occurred in that regard too. One thing that would help us is directional signage to try to keep people off of our property and going down to possible injury down the bluff. If there's a directional sign saying beach access or path to beach or something like that, that would be of enormous help to all of us. So at the same time that we're concerned about crime and public safety, we have these other concerns in terms of not only the access across and liability to us if there is a lawsuit from people using our property, but at any given time we can have, sitting out on our own patio, we can have people within feet away of our property because they come and congregate here to watch the sunset. So while we're enjoying our own home or playing ball with our dog out on the patio, we can hear and see and smell marijuana. Seriously, they're standing on our property just a few feet away. So, as I say, I'd like to start this as a dialogue because I know it's no easy answers. It's a changing world. We all have challenges in terms of trying to deal with what we've got to deal with nowadays, but that's what we're dealing with as homeowners and people that have seen what it was like back in the Pollyanna days of after World War II and how tranquil things were living in this little community where, just like with Becky, everybody knows everybody. When I first met Joe at the neighborhood watch meeting in October, his first question was, "Hey, do you know my buddy Billy Bundy?" And I said, "Oh my gosh, another small world story." So Billy and I grew up here, Sacramento.
Aren't your pops partners in First Doctors?
His dad was my dad's new medical person at 210 Del Mar, and my dad died of a heart attack in 1963, and Dr. Bundy was out of practice. Yeah, so.
Yeah, life goes fast.
Thank you for everything you guys do. You know, we just like to help keep San Clemente where it's always been.
So, but you guys got to have some kind of a thought on what is going to help you out there, whether it's parking not after 10 o'clock or something.
Yeah, the curfew, I
that's
think, would
feasible,
help.
that can be enforced. And
Yeah.
I don't know anything about the fence deal or not, you know, but I know when they start building houses, they put pretty big fences up to keep people out. And that's not going to keep all the people out by no means, because that's a hangout spot right now, you know. And so, and then when the lookout comes, and you know, Coastal Commission, I guess they do things like that, make you put things like that. But hopefully, it's such a small lookout, it's going to have to be walked to get there instead of not a hangout place, you know. So it's a tough one. There's no doubt about it. But if I'm sure the city and OCSD, they've always been a lot of help to want to try and help make this problem feasible or livable. I'm just not sure what it is right now.
Is there signage there now?
Yeah.
There is.
No.
Okay.
So Paul, you're a developer, is that,
Yeah.
you're gonna invest in that property down
I'm
the road?
just a representative right now.
Okay, but so the representative can do some things, probably.
Sure.
But whatever that would help. So between the developer and the city and the police, maybe we could do something. I mean, you listed off, there were like 6 things that he mentioned there. It looks like, I would think some of them are doable, but what do we do next, Nick, in something like situation like that?
Well, I listened to the rest of the folks, and they may have solutions too, but there's no signage. That's where you start. You know?
OCSD has tried to increase patrols there.
Yeah, and they have.
And they do, but you know, they're there and then they leave, and got a couple carloads of kids grow up, you know, and smoking pot and having a good time, and they go out there. Yeah.
The troubling thing that we have in the neighborhood and as homeowners, and it's the same thing the captain deals with every day, it's really hard nowadays to distinguish the good guys from the bad guys. So the couple that lost their bikes on Thursday, real nice truck pulls into our driveway, backs to the barrier at the end of the street. Guys get out of the car and move around for a couple minutes, and then all of a sudden, bikes in the car and they floor it down the street. You wouldn't think that these are going to be common thieves, but nowadays, yeah, the bad guys drive nice cars. And then what makes it hard as a homeowner is I look at the security tape a couple days later, and this beautiful red Corvette comes down the street, and the guy's there about 10, 15 minutes, but he ends up walking up both sides of our steps, so you don't know, is he casing the place? Why is he going up the steps, although he's acting like he's taking pictures of his Corvette? Then he pulls into our driveway and starts taking pictures, and again, you don't know nowadays, is he really taking pictures, or is there something else going on? Because as you know, we have people case to then come and steal
We've
deliveries
had
and
homeless
things.
break in, light fires in houses. We had one homeless guy come in with a knife,
Yeah.
accosted the homeowners. We've had a lot going on down there.
Yeah.
You know, it's sad to say we live in a nice place, people want to come and enjoy it, but it doesn't bring the best of people sometimes.
Yeah.
So
I'd be concerned with the slope going down because of the little trail.
It was
it
never
cuts
there
in.
before.
Yeah, it
It was
wasn't.
never there until the trail went in.
Yeah, it's a big concern to us, as it should be to the coastal.
Because you're gonna lose a house doing
Yeah,
that
uh-huh.
eventually, you know?
Yeah, and I know what it's like to live through the landslide. My dad was dead by the time this happened. My mom was a young single mom, and all of a sudden to have the houses and the whole neighborhood be in destruction and disarray was very upsetting. We had to move out of the house as the house was condemned, similar to what's happened now down in Cypress Shores with the destabilization down there. Yeah, it was a hard period of time.
It's a tough one.
Just so the committee knows, yeah, we've had people jump the fence, had to prosecute for the trespass. We've had kids while we were away, just like we were last week, 20 tweens jump the fence, open the gates, and then spend basically 20 hours at the house throwing water balloons down on the people on the beach path, all caught on the security tapes, which were turned over to OCSD. They went to the public schools and found the kids. We didn't want to do anything other than make them realize that that was a really bad thing to do. And not a good thing to be hitting and laughing about people down on the beach path being accosted with water balloons and things. We've had thefts. The street is difficult
You got
to
a real
live
problem
right now.
here, yeah.
It's on social media, sorry. Carrie Garrett.
Okay.
Carrie Garrett?
I'm Michael Marquez. I also work with and represent the owner of that 1.5 acres there, and I have some comments that I was waiting for them to speak first and see if there's anything I can add to that. And there are a couple of things I think that they haven't mentioned that I've been a witness to and or had to clean up after, because it's kind of been my responsibility for the last 4 years to more or less maintain the property when we get the city of San Clemente abatement notices to trim brush there, or even from the HOA down below. 5 of the 7 lots are part of the HOA, and they'll email me saying, hey, it's time to come trim the bushes or encroaching over the sidewalk, whatever. So I've been down there a lot, and about twice a year I'll go down there and fill probably 2 pretty huge trash bags full of bottles and cans and used condoms and drug needles and you name it. I'm finding so much stuff that's in those bushes that kind of most people don't see as they pass by. And what you can't even see, and I found, is there's been what looks like 3 different fires in those bushes over the last probably 4 years. And it's hard to see until you're starting to move through there, but there's evidence of 3 pretty decent sized little fires that went on in there. So fire is an issue that they didn't mention. And I think that's kind of a big concern. And following up on what Paul said about fences and what Tom mentioned about signage, there is no signs. If anything, I think it'd be better to have a no beach access sign.
Yeah.
Because I see no beach access signs all over the place where there's no actual beach access. And there is no true beach access there, and that there's no sign that indicates this. I think trying to get a fence is a lost cause. I don't think the Coastal Commission would approve something like this. But it would be pretty great to have a fence that prohibits
So why
one
would
from
the Coastal
crossing.
Commission not approve something like that? You're probably better versed in this than I, but I don't understand that.
Well, it would first require an application that would need to be approved to the city first before it even hits the Coastal
temporary
Commission.
fence?
For any kind of a fence.
Really?
Yeah.
Can I get your name?
Yes, it's Mike. Last name is Bojorquez. Bojorquez.
You know, I guess we could have a conversation with the city manager to get his take on stuff like this. And maybe by next meeting, have a couple of things we could talk about.
Yeah.
Because, like I say, the problem is pretty big, you know? And we gotta do a little more research on it.
Is there a particular time or a day of the week, or that if I were to drive over there at that particular
Friday,
time?
Saturday night's about 10
You
o'clock.
can go there right this second. There's probably 10 to 15 people on the lot right now.
The traffic, never stops. So it commences early in the morning with dog walks. It accelerates during the day. Sunset is a huge time.
Sure.
It's become an underage drinking
sure.
congregation area. But again, it can continue till 2 or 3 in the morning. And it's it's
Now,
nonstop.
the private owners of those homes, they have no signage say it's private property?
Well, the problem is, Mike and I have laughed about this. I, at the suggestion of the sheriff's department, applied for one of those applications to be able to go ahead and post a no trespassing sign so that if the sheriff's department saw that people were trespassing on our property, they could go ahead and engage without
Okay.
a call from us. Anything that goes up on the line, when my high school classmate, Steve Peter, surveyed this to show where the city right-of-way was, I went out and caught up with him and said hi, and his stakes and his wands, I said, "You realize these are gonna be gone in the morning?" And he goes, "Yeah, probably." And Mike and I talked about it. Sure enough, gone. So one of the problems that we have is we have to lock our trash cans because they get filled up with people that don't take their trash away, that just want to dump it off. So it makes more inconvenience to us.
I get a lot of dog poop in there too.
I put a nice little sign saying, "Please take your trash with you. Please don't leave any sign behind." Well, they tear that off. So anything that goes up will immediately come down. So if we put
All right.
no trespassing signs up, it'll just be disrespected too. And again, there's this feeling of entitlement, unfortunately, nowadays, like this is public property that they own it. And that's why the kids will stand within inches of our property and not turn an eye and say, "Gee, sorry, hope we aren't disturbing you or anything." So one final thing that I wanted to mention to you, despite everything else that we're going through, we keep getting lighting violation notices, even though the illumination mostly comes from the city street light. We have lights here again to try to deal with trespassing and things that we've had, plus graffiti on the wall. And it's very low illumination that just bounces off the house and comes over here. But we're dealing with that, and that's why Anthony Kurtz is copying on things, because we're still dealing with that, and we have
What
a
do you mean
permit.
violation, lighting violation?
Well, the city code says that it's impermissible to have illumination on your property that actually goes over to an adjoining property. And even though this is city property here, and Mike and his owners are happy that there's more illumination here than not, we keep getting these lighting violations, and we have to deal with that.
What do you think of
So
that,
right
Mike?
now, I've got a permit pending.
I think I'm very familiar with the case.
Is that something you do about that, or what's going on with that?
Use
I-
lights that do not,
Yeah, that's why we
It
just put in the
could be a
permit
lower-
application.
yeah.
But I just wanted to bring it up that obviously from the community's point of view and the homeowner's point of view, you want to have a disincentive to illegal activity going on here.
Who cites you for having, who reports that?
It's-
We don't reveal complainant
Yeah.
information,
So
but
it's a
this was
complaint
based
from
on a
another
complaint.
homeowner that's.
It's
that speaks
confidential, yeah.
Yeah.
It could, but
Okay,
it
so it's
could be, what
complaint-
I've learned, it could be anyone, even a non-resident of the city.
Or one of the persons sitting outside.
Correct, it could be one of the perpetrators. So, again, just so you know, I've got a big LED here that I use when bad things are going on. That when I flick it on, yeah, all of a sudden, people's clothes are coming on, people are running. It's like the cockroaches in the nighttime when you put that thing on. But again, just so everyone knows that despite everything that we've going on here, I'm being told to keep the house dark so that there isn't any light here, so that more bad things can happen. Which, from the city's point of view, I can understand it's the code, but at the same point of view, from a practical point of view, it doesn't make any sense in this particular circumstance.
And so you know, the owner of the property next door that it spills onto signed a letter about a year ago saying that we were actually very okay with the light spilling onto our property in case our consent was made it okay in any way.
But given what the code is, it says you can't have anything spill.
You know what number code that is?
Yeah.
What ordinance it is?
It's entitled 17.
Yeah.
Unless it's 1724.
Yeah, I guess I don't have that here.
Okay.
But the easiest way for us to deal with it is just to apply for the permit, which we have the city approve the fixture, and even if it spills over, it's still an approved fixture. But it's just another.
Is that right, Adam?
Fixture being at the light.
Yes, there's always going to be some light that comes onto another property. The issue we're having here, these were exceptionally bright lights, and they're illuminating another
Actually,
property.
they aren't. They're really dim. And so Anthony came out, and we've walked it 3 times now, and it's infinitesimal in terms of the different illumination. So we've gone through it, and
Well, I mean, initially,
How
when
community
the
comes
complaint
in.
was received, they were very bright lights. I mean, they were,
nothing's changed though.
Who's Anthony?
Nothing's changed. He's
he's a code compliance officer.
Oh, he's come out?
Yes.
Several times.
And what's he say now?
It was his recommendation just to apply for the permit, which we've done. But-
Yeah, and
but
I'm more than happy to talk about that code case separately.
Sure, you bet.
There is a point to all of this. The city does have general plan policies about dark skies. The goal is not to illuminate our way out of nighttime disturbances. There are clearly some issues here. These are very unique lots, and that the Coastal Commission does have a lot of say on this. The fact that there's a project is great. I'm not going to talk about that because right now I think I'm the actual project planner for it with Stephanie's departure. But between OCSD and code compliance, I think we can talk about how to address the issue of the people. I would like to think that at least on the bluff, I know that the informal coastal access is something that Coastal Commission recognizes. However, that in order to get there, you got to go through the gate and walk all the way down the street. But as far as the bluff top area that's next to your residence, I'll have to double check, but it seems like we should be able to get some no trespassing signs placed there. Granted, the Coastal Commission may have an issue with that as well because it's now an informal lookout point. But regardless, I think that city staff is equipped now, just as we are, to deal with these issues. But I know that code compliance has not received very many complaints about the lot. We have when they've had like weddings. There's like a wedding.
Hundreds.
Right. But of hundreds of weddings, I can recall one complaint. So there may be, and this honestly, people drinking, late at night, or trespassing are not issues that my staff would deal with. So, I'd be more than happy to talk to Captain Benfield and identify some options. As far as the committee goes, and I hate to be a party pooper on this, but you guys have a work plan that does not really identify these one-off property issues. If this is such a significant concern that you want to raise it to council, we have a process for that. Then they can direct staff or the committee to do further investigation. But there's really not anything at this point
One thing.
that the committee can do. With that said,
Understood.
this is really something I think existing staff is capable of dealing with.
Okay. One other thing that would really help us is if the city would be willing to put, and we'd be willing to pay for it, installation and cost, but a barricade down on the beach path so that people don't take their bikes down, access up and down across our property to the beach path. So the reason why this is all occurring and the erosion and the destruction of the coastal vegetation is people get to the train track crossing quicker that way, despite the inconvenience and the risk to themselves.
Coming down to that cul-de-sac.
Yeah.
It never
So-
happened until that crossing.
Yeah, so if you look at old photographs, this was never here. So that takes it here, and this is now much wider from this Google
Gotcha.
picture. If there could be a barricade here, because we're actually applying to the Coastal Commission just to revegetate. So even though it's under their auspices to protect the vegetation. Now we've got to spend tens of thousands of dollars to try to stop this.
Yeah.
And anything the city could do to help us to stop it would certainly be appreciated, and we'd be willing to pay for it.
When, who's dealing with the Coastal Commission on this? You directly?
No, I've got a person that's dealing with Liliana Roman in Long Beach office.
Okay, who's the person dealing with that? If you don't mind.
Tony, I'm gonna forget his last name right now. Guy out of Irvine.
Okay. So, why don't the three of us get a conversation?
That'd be great.
I'll communicate with Liliana.
Okay.
I don't know if the Coastal Commission's still not taking direct phone calls, but I can tell you they were very hard to reach over the last 2
They're
years.
accessible now. So
Yeah.
I've talked to her a couple times, and then
Okay.
Tony's taken it from there.
Carrie, you've been at Hannah, what do you?
I think one of the things that we didn't talk about is that the golf carts go out there sometimes, and when the mini bikes and the road bikes go out there, and they do their cookies. At this time of the year, usually the top of that bluff would be all green, except for one narrow path that used to go over the top and down,
Hell
far
of a
side.
ride.
Okay, so all of that is hard packed dirt now, and they go out there and they do their little spins around. If we could expand the guardrail so that it goes broader between, like, on both sides, by the fire hydrant and on the left side, because the golf carts and the bikes tend to go around on the left side, and it would stop the e-bikes from wanting to go that way because the stupid guardrail would be in their way. They'd have to pick it up and lift it and go over. Whereas if you're a pedestrian, you can step over it. I'm just saying that would be awesome if we could just extend the guardrail, make it broader.
Who would do that, the engineering department, or it's not code compliance?
No, it's not. Yeah, let me look into the guardrail issue. The beach trail took forever to get. There's railroad right of way, which is multiple agencies somehow, and Coastal Commission, along with the city departments to actually do the work. Let me look into that. I mean, I'll tell you, putting up a fence along the cul-de-sac to just block off any direct access to there would be amazing. And I think that the city would even permit, at least on a temporary basis, the blocking off of that easement, the unpaved street.
That's a real good point, Adam, and if you try to go through the city to try and get that rail extended, it'll probably take a year. But
Couldn't the city do it of its own volition? Because it's city property.
well, that's gonna be a question here, but if you're talking about putting a fence in on your property that does the exact same thing, is not letting bikes and everything in, that's much more doable, and it would get done a lot faster, since private enterprise could get things done a little quicker than governments can.
Yeah, I would just want to check with the Coastal Commission. I mean, if we're dealing with like potential.
Liliana said no,
Huh?
because I talked to Planning Commission first, and
Who said no?
Coastal Commission.
Said no to a fence,
Correct.
just to block off the private lots.
Correct.
All right. Well, let me contact them. But I think there's multiple issues here. One is the human safety factor. The second is just the maintenance of the bluff itself.
Yeah.
That should be Coastal Commission, one of their primary concerns. And then the third is just dealing with nuisances, generally. So
That's why I said I figured it's an ongoing discussion. And just
yeah. So why don't we? Can you respond to my last email with the times that we can talk over the next week and a half or so? Sooner the better. And then I'll try to accommodate your schedule, and we'll come up with a plan on dealing with coastal. And then in the meantime, I'll talk with Captain Penfield here and try to figure out what OCSD needs, either from the residents or in conjunction with code compliance, to identify, the violations that may exist. Because if there's a bunch of people there and they're drinking and it's getting loud, there are codes for like loud and unruly gatherings.
Oh, yeah.
That's a pretty good one.
Yeah.
I will say though, for municipal code violations, code compliance deals with property owners. So we're more than happy to help, but we don't go and deal directly with drinking teens.
I understand.
We go to the property owners and we say, there's a public nuisance on your property, you're allowing it to be maintained. And then we're gonna get locked into about 3 years.
But you can't fix it.
Trying to figure out how to stop it, so,
How do they like that?
I don't, I,
Yeah.
What's wrong?
The world we live in.
that is true. So let's start with that and then we'll go from there.
Yeah, it was great. Captain, I'm sure knows that the electrical bikes out there and motorized bikes, one of the officers came a couple weeks ago and told the kids to stop and brought their dad down, and because it turns into a motocross area out there too, so they're doing jumps and they're causing more erosion, noise. And we've got one guy that comes down there, never with a shirt on, but the loudest motocross bike you could hear of, and people across the canyon are complaining.
The dirt bike.
Yeah.
There's from when the houses used to be next door, there's a old water main that protrudes down there. So I didn't come into San Clemente until 1995-ish. Well, I came down in 79, I went to college, I think, but anyway, when I was pregnant with our son, who's gonna be 24, so 1997, I was living at the house, and we lived there all of 1998. Well, at that time, only that rusty part of that water main was exposed. All of the erosion that's happened since then, how it really sticks out, that's all happened in the last 24 years.
Well,
I mean,
it's probably
and it
20
was,
feet long now.
and it's amazing because of all of the bikes, and you know, they put the brakes on, and I've said to kids, have you ever sanded a piece of wood, and when you sand it with something, and you go, so that's what you're doing with the bike on the bluff, and you put your brakes on, and it just does that, and then the wind blows it, and the rain comes, but they, I'm talking, and nobody cares.
Yeah, well, wheelers are even worse. Electric wheels just tear it right out.
Yeah, we got all the cookies they do
don't
out
have-
there.
Yeah, they're not like a car.
Yeah, and that trail was never on our property, ever. Until that went in, and then, we had 5 years of drought, and then it was like someone on the bluff gonna go over and like, oh, the plants were weak, and they took their bikes and they started going that way over the plants. And then once the bikes started doing it, then they killed the plants and the people started doing it. And now it's just beaten, and now it's got a rut, and it's very steep and dangerous, and people still go that way. I saw a woman out there with her canes gonna go down that way, and I said, wait, do not do that. I said, you can go around, go to the city access, the stairs. I said it that way, I said, you can walk down Rocadale Canyon and step out there.
And the loss of the vegetation also makes the land itself more prone to
Erosion, exactly.
And potential failure because you no longer have the plant material, dissipating or kind of softening the landing of the rainwater.
Yeah,
which
exactly.
if it's just the dirt, it blasts it away.
Have you spoken in front of the Coastal Commission yet?
Spoken, no.
They have a meeting every month held at some different place, and we've gone down to speak with them before. And they're pretty nice. Some of the people on board are pretty nice, and they have their ways about what they want done. But I think they're reasonable. And if you went and spoke, with their Dana Point sometimes in Cambria and different places, and you get on the oral thing and just make them aware of it. Show them your pictures and say, listen, this is what's happening. You're worried about your coastal erosion stuff. This is what happened. We want to put a fence up there. It's private property, and we need to keep people off there. I would do that also.
Okay,
And you go to their website and it'll tell you where their meetings are,
Right.
and you can catch a local one.
Well, they're all virtual now.
Or they
Still, wow.
Yeah,
they're still
I think
on.
they will be for all. Saving a lot of money.
Yeah, and each there must be like 20 commissioners on there, and they have listed their emails and everything. And another thing I was into, we wrote to all the commissioners and stuff, and so you really got to make it be known. Another question, Adam. We always talked about no parking after 10 o'clock at night. Is that possible for that area down there on La Rambla? And then if people are parked there after 10, they get tickets.
It's a public street, so the city council would have the authority to make changes.
Because that's been a problem for years, and even before the Garris got there, Other people complain, the Sigafoos are always complaining about that, and they just threw their hands up and said, you kidding me? Why can't
Well,
we-"
Victoria was there, his mom, and she always complained.
Okay, so maybe that's another thing we can look at is no parking after 10 o'clock.
Well, it says no parking, and they all park anyway. There's
But
already
then-
no parking
And
signs.
that's,
They ignore them.
that's good, then we gotta start dropping tickets on them, and then hopefully that would help.
And the department.
This
does
is more
that.
work for you.
Again, it's just, it overwhelms the department. The officers, the deputies come by, they just shake their head, and they could write tickets the entire day.
Well,
Well, how would they do that? They'd have to go to front of the city council and explain the situation there, and then get the city council.
Yeah, they have to
back
make
on
an
it.
ordinance to put,
Yeah, so you'd have to have an ordinance through the city council.
yeah.
So
I think it's
a
gotta
reasonable
start
thing
with-
to do. And
Start
then
with city
Adam's gonna
manager
look
too, to
into
see
it.
if we have his backing on it.
I have a question of curiosity. Isn't the lifeguard department capable of also issuing citations?
They are, but they look west.
Yeah.
They're not gonna
Come up and
devote, yeah, there's just not the
Thought.
resources.
Yeah.
I mean, Our marine safety captain is a non-voting member of this body, and he's not here right now because he needs to be out there watching people.
Makes sense.
Yeah. There might be an opportunity for the park rangers to assist due to the nature of how this property is used. On similar situations, I've had the park rangers assist and just keeping an eye on things, alerting OCSD when there are issues there. But let's talk next, and then
Appreciate that.
yeah, then I'll circle around with everybody and see what we can do.
So it's probably worth mentioning, because it's a political world too, but the lighting violations on our property are coming from those opposed to the development. We know, although it's confidential, who the complainants have been, because of their own chatter on their own websites, particularly that Save the San Clemente Bluffs. So it's no surprise in terms of how people are lining up politically on this, but at the same time, what those people are concerned about is their views, not the protection of the bluffs or the erosion of the bluffs.
And they don't pick up the poop or the.
Yeah, they don't help with the cleanup or dealing with problems, but that's what's going on in the background here too, in terms of the complaints against us, because as I say, it's for a later time, but our lighting hasn't changed. But once they realized that we were not opposed to the development, then all of a sudden the complaints started coming in.
Yeah. Well, I'll review that case this weekend one more time. It's been I know it's been going on for
Yeah, it's about a year.
feels like a year.
Yeah. So, thank you, and thanks for your time today, and appreciate everything.
a lot of it's just public awareness, I didn't know
You
they
bet.
had a problem there.
Well,
but,
and I'm not
Joe
sure if the
does.
council knows that, you guys need to speak in front of the council also, and they have communications, and they gotta start, the presentation you had, there's pretty good, that's pretty good stuff.
You got 3 minutes.
Yeah, thanks for letting us go.
You have 3, then,
Talk fast.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's,
Be organized.
We get 12 minutes.
Exactly.
Great. Well, thank you very much.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you,
Appreciate it.
everyone.
Thank you, Captain.
We need to talk.
I haven't responded to your email.
Oh, you did?
I don't. I haven't done. Yes.
So we don't need to talk.
Or I can call you.
Thanks a lot.
if you prefer.
Thanks, guys.
thanks for coming.
Thank you.
See you, John.
Thanks, Joe.
Okay, next on the, do we have any other written communications or anything to deal with there?
No, we do not.
Okay, good. Reviews and recommendations, we had code compliance, first quarter performance measures.
Yes, these A and B are together. Previously, I provided some numbers where the two were broken apart. That was the plan when code compliance was just going to be private property code enforcement and the park rangers. Since last year, we have taken on doing the enforcement of water quality, which used to be under the utilities department, and we also have a community outreach worker. And so at this point, over this year, we're going to be reviewing how best to describe all of the somewhat unrelated activities of the Code Compliance Division to present our performance measures in a way that makes sense to people. For now, we've reverted back to how we had it the first year that the park rangers were with us, which was to include all of their numbers together. It's a little confusing, and I get that. I'm more than happy to kind of walk through whose numbers mean what. Anything that talks about a case is code compliance, is code enforcement related. Beach and park patrols, activities, those types of things, those would be the park rangers.
So when you're talking about effectiveness, I'm looking at last year's stuff too, or 2020. And let's see, July, it said you got 29% of cases acknowledged within 2 days. In 2020, you had 51% had been acknowledged. But what's the goal? Is there a goal?
The goal is 100%.
Okay.
That's what we would like. That's what we would like. Last year, we lost one staff person, one officer position. So we're down. We're still waiting to get some of those positions recruited, and
they're funded though.
They're funded.
Okay,
yeah.
all right. You lose
and
it, you could lose the funding and still have the position.
No, we've got both.
Good. Of course, we're right in the middle of COVID. I'm trying to, what effect does COVID have to responding to people?
Well, COVID had a big effect. The first was that there was a period of time where we didn't do interior inspections.
Interior?
Yeah.
For example?
Could be anything. Substandard housing.
Inside the house?
Inside the house.
Oh, really?
Yeah. That was for health reasons. If there was an egregious violation that was reported, we would try to accommodate that as best as possible. But there were a number of things that really slowed us down.
Mm-hmm.
Also, gave us reasons to find other ways to address complaints without potentially putting staff in harm's way.
Gotcha. Okay.
But as far as trying to acknowledge cases, that's really a representation of once it is assigned to somebody, for that person to make some type of initial contact, either to respond to the complainant, to go out to the site and see what's going on, those kinds of issues.
So there's variables like not enough staff.
Yeah.
And the current staff is overwhelmed with what they have and they can't get to whatever.
Yeah, we can't get to it. The other thing is we have multiple priorities of case types. The first ones are the ones that directly impact human health and safety, and they can include noise violations, lighting that's obnoxious, but they typically deal with things like sewer spills, backed up, substandard, or I should say uninhabitable dwelling situations. Things where there's no heat in the house, there's no ovens that work, those types of things. The second priority, those are things that are significant issues that can either lead to additional violations just by copycat, or they're important for a variety of reasons. And those are things like unpermitted businesses, vacation rentals, unpermitted vacation rentals, boarding houses, which Silver Living Homes fall into that category,
Right.
generally speaking. Those kinds of things, where nobody's going to die if it continues on for a day or so,
Right.
but it's still a significant violation of the municipal code. And then the final ones are things of a much more minor nature. They typically deal with like temporary signs, certain types of overgrown vegetation that's not prohibiting like a street sweeper from sweeping the streets, and it's not a fire hazard. It's just unmaintained and ugly, and so those are the third priority. So we tend to get a lot of top priority projects, which can push off a number of our other ones. The other thing is that based on the staffing that we have, our weekend staff person tends to get a lot of the, drive around and look at this vegetation and that one and this one and that one. And so we'll get a number of calls on Monday. We'll save them all for this person on Thursday.
Okay.
So 100% of those are not going to be responded to within 2 days.
That's a staffing thing too.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, no, absolutely.
Right.
One of the issues with code compliance is that we deal with so many different types of issues that there's always work. There's always enough work. There's always more than enough work for us. But the work changes. Every year there seems to be new issues. 5-6 years ago, it was vacation rentals and sober living homes. That lasted for a couple of years.
Been that long?
Yeah. Then homelessness became the issue, and that's been the issue for a few years. In my experience, there's always going to be those types of hot button issues that override everything else on our plate. The only problem is we still have all of those other types of issues.
When I read this, Adam, it seemed to me that it's pretty high level. I mean, you just went through a list of priorities. Those priorities are what, if I was reading this, I would like to hear. If you could categorize this stuff by priority, how many cases were priority 1, priority 2, like the sheriff's department does. I think that would give the city council a little better idea of how important the work is you're doing and how things are moving back and forth. I wish I'd written down all those priorities you just went through, but you got priority 1, safe and health. Priority 2, not so. And if you could break it down by priorities under the workload output, I think that would, at least when I read it, it would be more impact on me.
No, I agree. I would love to have technology in place that would allow us to do that right now. We don't, and it's our case tracking software program.
Okay.
We do have subtypes of cases, but they're subtyped into like environmental issues, residential, commercial, like those types of things. We just don't have a place to identify types of like priorities, and we deal with, we have a staff of. Classically, we have a staff of between 4 and 5 field staff. And every year we get in the neighborhood of, I'll say 3,500 complaints or so. That doesn't really that doesn't leave as much time as we'd like for data entry. And I say that because data entry is a huge part of what we do. There are very few cases where we show up and we talk to somebody and the violation just simply ends right there, and then we just go about our merry way. No report, we didn't write anything down, we're just done. Every single complaint we have to respond to, and it's our staff that responds to it. And then with most of these complaints turning into cases, of which there's generally 1,000 to 1,300 depending on the year, those stay open for quite a while. And so we're constantly touching these cases. So we're getting a lot of cases, but a lot of them happen to stay open just because we're dealing with zoning violations. And so when somebody builds a shed, they're not going to get a sledgehammer out the second we show up and destroy it. They're going to want to go through the right process and try to get it permitted.
So I think the question is as you, the manager, reviewing your operation, is it easily determined by you when you look at the stats what's priority 1s and 2s and 3s?
Mm-hmm.
You can do that.
Yeah, but I'm not going to have the time to go through every single case and identify. And the problem is that these numbers are generated out of a query, so it's all cases.
Well,
and right now there's no way to
you don't
separate
categorize that right now.
We can't categorize that right now.
Yeah, well, health and safety, okay, that's.
Well, the other thing there too, under efficiency, there's no way of telling how many of these cases were successfully closed and how many were not closed or open. It just says number of cases closed per officer. I don't know if that was done successfully or they just kind of walked away from it and throw
We don't
their
walk
hands,
away from any case.
I think it's all a time issue, when you're doing a job like Adam do, and you got all these things on your plate, you don't have a whole bunch of time to evaluate everything. I don't know what kind of percentage or whatever, but you don't have a whole bunch of time to evaluate every move you make.
Well,
So I agree there's got to be some kind of way to evaluate, but to get down to the,
Well, this software isn't
Figure it
any good. I mean, that's the bottom line.
And we're going through an upgrade right now, and I'm really hoping that it gets better. The other thing is that code compliance has changed over the past few years.
Good.
I mean,
sounds like
it's changed it's changed in a global sense. The things that code compliance is asked to do. One thing, and we'll talk about this later, but right now there's no line for proactive inspections.
Yeah.
So now we're talking about adding that. Whenever there's nobody in the city to do anything, it always goes to code. 100% of the time.
Yeah, okay.
I mean, I would bet money on it, but I just don't want to take people's money that easy.
No.
So we'll be. This is a work in progress. We know that this needs to be better identified. But like I said, right now we've got community outreach numbers, which we have sort of in that outreach report. Even though that talks more about demographics of who we're talking to than the actual actions of the community outreach worker. Park rangers, code enforcement, and like I said, water quality enforcement, which is interesting because their numbers actually need to be reported to the state, and so we're still trying to figure out whether those numbers of my staff are going to be reported in this division or in the utilities department, just for ease of required states reporting. So we've got a lot of stuff there. I can tell you this: the effectiveness with which that division operates right now is leaps above what it was when I got hold of them. Trying to tease out success is and always has been a very difficult problem, just by virtue of the fact that even if we have type 1 cases, even if we do break them all into type 1, 2, and 3, there are some type 1 cases that can be resolved in an hour. And then there's some where we have to basically kick people out of the home because it's a red tag structure. It's still a type 1 case, but since nobody's living there, we'll give the people a little bit more time to fix the problem. And then now we've got type 1 cases that are an hour, they last an hour or they last a month. And so just teasing out those details are somewhat difficult.
Well, if it lasts that long and it's not closed, then it's not successful. I mean, that's
No,
what you
not
report.
necessarily, because if you have to rehab the house, either tear it down or
It's still not until that thing's torn down or whatever.
right,
It's not
until
closed. It's not
yeah,
successful.
but when it's closed, that's a successful case.
Yeah.
That's what you're calling
Well,
it.
but if I
Case
was
is
on the city
closed.
council, I'd want to know, well, they spent a year and a half getting it done, and finally this problem is successful. And it's been
We've
open
spent
for
2
the
years
last
to
year and
demo a
half.
house.
And the public safety committee,
Yeah.
was looking at it,
No, we spent 2 years to demo a house.
Yeah.
And that was as fast as it could possibly be done because of the court system.
And
Court
the
system.
city council ought to know
Then
that.
you gotta go get the
Yeah.
permit for demolition, and that'll take forever, and,
Yeah.
this goes on.
Well,
and
yeah,
on.
yeah, well-
Again, though, if the only kinds of cases we dealt with were substandard housing,
Mhm.
I could easily break that up into multiple different case types, and differentiate between the ones that have a long-term trajectory of compliance and those that have a short-term. The problem is that we deal with so many specifically distinct types of violations. The report would be 15 pages long to try to break out the nuances between all these cases.
Well, I hear your pain on that one, but I don't think you need to go that deep, though. Just, you've got priority one, and here's how many there are, and here's how many are open, and how many are closed.
Yeah.
Successfully closed.
Well, I can tell
That's
you,
what you want to hear, is success, or they're still open.
Yeah.
There's nothing negative about saying the case has been open for months or anything.
Oh no,
They
it's
realize,
to be expected.
you need more people, and not enough money, or there's just a lot of things going wrong here.
There's a story there, but
Yeah.
you see, as the manager,
Yeah.
you now have a feel for all these things because you're right in there. Say you get promoted and a new guy comes in, he's going to be lost until he has enough time in to get that feel too.
Yeah. Well, anybody that's familiar with how code enforcement works is going to understand the, inescapable issues of trying to describe that work. But we do have an upgrade that IT is working on for our project tracking software right now. We've got a laundry list of improvements we'd like to make to that
Oh, good.
program. This is something that we will definitely be continuing to work on, and hopefully by the next meeting, when the Code Compliance Division's numbers are reported, I'll have an update on what changes we're anticipating if they're not already reflected. Part of the problem with changing these numbers is we have to go back and recalculate everything for the previous year, so that in the budget, that when it's presented, it's consistent, consistent reporting.
Yeah.
Well, as a minimum, I mean, you're going to break up park rangers from code compliance.
I don't think that's actually. I mean, we'll try to better differentiate between, but initially I wanted code compliance and the park rangers to have their own separate numbers.
Right.
But like I said, the division, if we do that for every umbrella that's under code, we're going to have 4. We're going to have water quality, we're going to have community outreach, we're going to have park rangers and code enforcement. And that's just unruly.
So it'll be interesting to see what you come up with.
Yeah,
Your
thank you.
stats.
I think it's going to be fun.
Somebody's going to have a lot of work to do there.
Yeah, that is somebody.
Reprogramming that back in. Will it all have to be hand programmed in? When you go back.
We're hoping it's just a seamless transition.
Transparent, as they say.
Yeah.
Don't throw away the old program until you.
We're going to have to change our task description on performance measures and say, well, with the exception of water quality and, community outreach, we're not, we can't.
Well,
address those or something. Or
We can
put them on.
observe what's going on. You see. And with the person here that can explain that stuff, that's what it's about, right?
Yeah.
And
Well, definitely, that's
all you
the
can do,
case.
because I can't interpret these numbers.
Yeah.
I need an interpreter.
Yep.
Well, it's good to hear your IT's working on some of these things. That's
Okay.
Put some more meat in them, yeah.
Any more on this, on reviews and
I hope
recommendations?
not.
Beat that one.
Joe,
Okay, new business, communications disaster project update. I talked to Kyle Kroger, and the consultant organization is doing the gap analysis of, basically, here's what we have currently, here's what, and what is it that we actually need, and what needs to be done. I think the gap is what we need to be done is fairly close to being formulated. So that's coming along, and then we'll probably have access to that. You can see the Red Cross is here. That made a nice one, and it's nice to see the executive director lives in town, so that gives us access there. Got another presentation that will probably come in for next meeting. Another interesting one. So we're still working on it, and it's alive and well. Okay. Homelessness and best management practices for public safety personnel project update. Anything on?
Rick's not here.
Okay, Rick's not here. Legislative review, and then Rick's not here. Neighborhood watch.
Yeah, so we
Joe's
have
here.
all the information, or draft of all the information we want to go on the city website. We don't have an administrative for it or someone that could write it out for us. So I talked to Adam to see if he could find someone. We don't think it's up to us to find someone to write a city website for us. So we need the city to come up with someone to do that. So we're kind of at a standstill now until that happens. But we have all the information that we want on the website. It's just got to be formatted and put in. So that's where we are.
Is it something that we need to make a recommendation to the city council?
no, I'm working with Brian Brower right now to get that worked on.
Yeah, and I can meet with Brian or whoever you just assign it to.
He took a look at the draft webpage that you guys put together, and just said, it's great. Most of the time when somebody wants to set up a webpage, they don't have half of them. It's not half as that complete. So I think it's just a matter of transferring that information onto a
And the
a
format,
specific.
what it's going to look like and things like that. And there's other
Yeah.
cities that have formatted theirs real nice. Like we got all that information lined up for that. So and when that happens, maybe by sometime this month, we can meet with who's ever doing it and give us more ideas and things like that. And then maybe by the next meeting, we'll have a kind of a draft of the new website.
Great.
Yeah.
Is there gonna be a link from the city website to your website, or how is that, or is it gonna be part of the
No, it's
city's?
going to be a city website. It's not going to be ours.
Okay,
Yeah.
so when I go to City San Clemente, I'll find
Right.
Neighborhood Watch, click
Right,
and,
and we want to have links on that goes to the video that OCSD is making, how to start a watch group. We want to have maps of all the areas in town, so we have that on there right now. So once we get that, the city website done, then we're going to send out to all the past and present neighborhood watch captains and see who's still interested in doing it. Then our plans are to advertise to see who wants to fill the spot of block captains. So we've been waiting on not just the website, but also we're going to get the neighborhood watch video that OCSD is working on right now. So that's kind of where we're at.
will there be input from people that, have some issues, like human trafficking or something on that?
No,
You're not gonna have any full feedback?
we haven't even thought about that right now. That's going to get way too complicated right now.
We get it organized.
Yeah. Yeah,
Things.
there's so many different moving parts to it, to throw something like that in, it just kind of makes it even more difficult. Now, it can be down the road if that's something that we
Really
think
be,
needs to be put in.
Yeah.
But, we're talking about.
You're just getting organized.
We're talking about branching out to CERT and,
Yeah.
everything else, going on. So, we're trying to get the basic thing done and get up and rolling, we're trying to do, so.
Okay, so we've talked about this in the past as an administrator, city employee administrator.
Well, that's what we're talking about too. We need not only someone that could, create it, but also someone that's going to administer it. Whether it's going to be, I don't think OCSD has anyone that could have time to do that. Rick suggested that he might want to try it, but once again, we're volunteers on this thing, and it's going to take some hours a week, and I'm not sure any of us have that kind of time to spend 10 hours a week or whatever it's going to take to facilitate the calls coming in and directing people. So a lot of moving parts still. We haven't got it all figured out, but we're getting there. So.
But as far as administrator city type thing, we're gonna put our thoughts together of how we address that. If it's something that current city staff can do it, or we need a recommendation to the
when we talk to the person that creates the website, hopefully it will be mostly self-directed. If something happens and you want to be a block captain, you can press a button and see what you have to do. Get a form that you get out to your neighborhoods to have a meeting. The number to talk to OCSD to get someone out there. So we're not going to. We want it to be self-sufficient where someone doesn't have to administer it, but you can't say it. You got to have someone looking over the program. And it's going to. I would believe it's going to have to be a city person, because guys in this community are going to be transient. We're not going to be here forever. So that's what we're looking at.
Yeah.
And a lot of the other cities have the number to OCSD, to their crime prevention analyst that deals with neighborhood watch. So that's still, once we get the website down, we're going to be talking to Lisa to see what her abilities are to help us out. So it's getting pretty well organized, the structure of it and everything, but it's to get to the point where we get this website and make it pretty functional and user friendly. That's a big deal right now. So once we get with someone in the city, we work it out. That's our next step. So
good. Hey, at least it's not dead. The project's moving.
No, it's not dead, but we put too much work in it for it to be dead.
Oh, please, it's too nice of a resource for the community.
We need a story in the St. Clement Times about that.
We will but it's not time yet.
Oh, yeah.
When we get the foundation laid and the website in, then we're going to go out and recruit block captains, and even if you just want to join it, if someone wants to join a watch group, you want to have a link on there that goes to your area to see if there's someone you could contact or already has it, and if not, can you be the captain? So anyhow, there's a lot of stuff going on, and I'm not literate at all in the computer. And Bill tried to help us a little bit, and really sharp. And he says he can probably create it, he can't administer it. So we think that the creator of it should also be the person that might be administering it, just because he'll know the ins and outs of it. When you jump around from one person to the next, things get kind of muddy. So
yeah, that's always the problem. Yeah, keeping it current. Yeah.
All right.
that's it.
Human trafficking project. Chuck, do you have anything on that?
Well, we were expecting to get a little further along today and come up with some more recommendations, but I guess we're still kind of waiting. We had 3 priorities at the last meeting, and the first one had to do with inspections and compliance with codes and things like that. And Adam's working on that. So I don't, Adam, you want to?
Honestly, you know what? The summary
that
you had, that works for me.
Oh, okay.
If you want, I can pull up the PowerPoint from last time.
Yeah, why don't you do that?
Go through it.
Yeah.
And just,
I think we talked about it, that we can just go so far with identifying at a fairly high level on what needs to be done, and then let city staff work the details. After council says, yeah, it's a good idea.
Like green light stuff.
Yeah. How you doing, Tony?
Good. How are you?
Okay.
We haven't put you to sleep yet? Good.
He's alert. Next to the last chart or something down there.
Priority 1, 2, and 3.
Oh, there it is. Oh,
Does that work?
That's it. Yeah. Okay.
You know what? I just zoom this in a little bit.
Oh, that's nice.
And then,
The screen isn't as bright as it used to be.
you know, it is bright. I'm gonna close these blinds.
Maybe that's,
Yeah, it's not on dynamic range, I think, the TV. You know, when you go to the TV store, it's always bright and all that.
oh yeah, you go in a
It's called
Costco.
a dynamic range.
Those $4,000 TVs. Okay, so number one up there, oops, I think, no, where's my pointer? It died off.
It just died.
Yeah, the batteries, no, I better not look into it. It's there.
It's
Oh, there it is. Oh, it doesn't, it's not a reflective screen, I forgot. Technology, you know, it's dumb me. Okay,
All right.
all right.
So before you begin,
Yeah.
just for procedurally, I recommend that we read each priority out loud, and
Okay.
then at the end, that way it's on the record what was actually approved. And I'm more than happy to do the reading. But when we talk about priority one, I'm referencing this list,
Oh, yeah, yeah,
right, that you put together.
okay,
So
it's not all up there, is it?
you
I
actually,
thought we had that one.
no, it's, you added a couple items.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
That we had talked about.
Okay.
You know, providing staffing impact and cost estimates, and that way the council has the information and they can make the decision based on
Okay.
the recommendations.
Yeah, that came from Rick and I when we had the meeting with I-5 Freedom
So we want to
Foundation.
read those into this?
Yeah.
Pretty much.
Okay.
So, it depends on how much reading you want to do.
You can do it all.
Okay.
A little horse.
Did you want to talk about any other modifications to these proposed priorities?
Let's see. The only one is, let's see, priority 3 was the, let's see, neighborhood watch, school counselors, human trafficking, it's these code violation. That last bullet there, the city website has a list of items that the public can click on and say, I've got a concern about that particular issue. So I wanted to suggest that they add this, this human trafficking sort of thing to that list.
Okay.
That's really what that meant there. It's kind of not obvious what it says. That was the implementation that we were recommending.
Gotcha.
The public have some sort of a way to get to you that they're observing something that they feel is a violation of human trafficking or a concern. Yeah.
Okay. So, I'll start with priority 1. When we get to priority 3, you can just
Okay.
add another bullet or revise. So, all right. So for the committee's consideration, we are looking at the priorities identified in the PowerPoint presented on this topic at the February 22nd meeting. The priority 1 states strengthen massage parlor oversight by the Code Enforcement Department. The action items under priority 1 will be delegate at least one individual on code compliance staff to be the main point of contact dealing with massage parlors and other related businesses, for example, nail salons, hotels, etc. Item 2, develop an abbreviated inspection sheet based on existing zoning and code regulations for massage parlor initial and annual licensing inspections. Number 3, determine an efficient use of staff to conduct random inspections of massage parlors and related businesses. Number 4, suggest ways the code compliance department can contribute to positive incentives for massage parlors and other businesses complying with city ordinances. Number 5, provide staffing impact and cost estimates required for the above. And I will add in the last 2 additionally. Provide training to successfully accomplish this task and develop and implement a strategic plan to ensure code compliance. I'll say code compliance and OCSD coordination on these activities. So that's priority one. Does anybody have any comments on what was?
I just, this is kind of one facet. Massage parlor oversight is just one facet of human trafficking. And I don't know if it's in priority 3 that we want to talk about it, or broaden the scope of, instead of massage parlor oversight, is human trafficking.
And that's going to be an issue for code compliance, because we live to administer and enforce the municipal code.
Perfect.
We don't have anything in the municipal code that directly identifies somebody as a violator of human trafficking.
Okay.
No, it's not a
That's
municipal code,
yeah.
it's a penal code.
Right, and that's out of your range. Yeah.
It is.
Sure.
So one thing and OCSD and code compliance team up on issues like this from time to time.
Mm-hmm.
Massage parlors especially will work with Vice to be made aware of activities that they're pursuing. And when we observe something that OCSD should be fully aware of, we'll connect with them on it.
Right.
To be designated to deal with massage establishments
Mhm.
is one thing.
Right.
But to be designated to deal with human trafficking is really outside of our wheelhouse.
You're talking about code compliance.
Code compliance.
Okay.
I'm more than happy to have the discussion on it, but that's really OCSD's.
That's probably where we go to priority 3 is awareness, public awareness, and they would report whatever they see it to, and you could refer it to, and it could go either way.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
We deal with complaints.
Yeah, and we push complaints
Right.
around to the appropriate people all
Sure.
the time. We get,
Yeah.
you know.
But for this purposes here, you've got massage parlor oversight. That's what you're dealing with specifically. And you
Yes.
Need, you need
And
that stuff.
Priority 1, yeah.
Yeah.
Priority 2, you get down to hotels, motels, nail salons, things like that.
You're talking about the sexual abuse end of it for the.
Just illicit human trafficking, yeah. Yes. Those motels and hotels are a site for that too.
yeah.
Okay, I'm on a different planet then.
And human labor trafficking too, yeah.
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 That's
And
where
so that's a good example of the issue that we have as code enforcement
Mhm.
staff is the code has a lot of stuff that regulates massage establishments in such a way that it makes human trafficking more difficult if they're inspected more frequently. Hotels, there's no inspection that code compliance staff is really going to be able to go in and do based on our code that's also going to stop or lessen human trafficking, because there's just
human trafficking as a whole, or
within that establishment.
okay.
There's the codes related to hotels are basically, I mean, there's certain requirements that hotels need to abide by.
Right.
They need to pay TOT, but on the whole, they're not really treated that much differently than most regular businesses in town. Massage establishments are unique. There's a few types of commercial operations that have sections and multiple titles of the code. There's a focus on them. It's much easier for code compliance to help in this respect than in hotels. That would be something that
They identify themselves with a business license. Massage parlors.
Yeah.
Where if they have a private massage parlor in hotel, that need a business license because he's doing it undercover, basically.
Yes.
It'd be harder
It's a
to
special
find
case,
him.
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's a good example of
Yeah.
the differences. The other ones are, certain types of illegal operations are easy to catch because you need to advertise. That's why vacation rentals are way easier to catch than boarding houses, because the amount of advertising that vacation rentals do is far and above. Massage establishments advertise for specific services likely to, generate some concerns.
Right,
Hotels, though, they don't do that.
right.
So they're not going to openly advertise the types of services where we would know who might be a human trafficking victim here.
Right.
So that's
Yeah.
it's those types
More
of
difficult.
nuances.
Okay.
Okay. So that's priority 1. Is everybody okay with
Yeah.
all of that? All right. Priority 2, educate and reward hotel and motel business compliance. First action item, have hotels and motels prioritize human trafficking recognition and reporting in their establishments, both sex and labor related. The second action item, officially recognize hotels and motels committed to avoid human trafficking in their establishments. For example, 5-star rating. Priority 3, include human trafficking information in community forums to schools and encourage citizens to report illicit activities. First action item, include human trafficking information in the Neighborhood Watch program. Number 2, educate school counselors to recognize human trafficking and resources providing support to student victims. 3, you want to just say what that change was to the third one?
You just read it there.
That's fine.
I think that's, yeah.
Add human trafficking to the city's code enforcement violation hotline.
You'll have to create a hotline, I guess. So that, the hotline would be that on the existing website.
So we have
Yeah.
a 24-hour line that people call,
Yeah.
and that's our code compliance hotline.
I was thinking that would be different though. It wouldn't just say code compliance, because code compliance covers so many things. I
Yeah.
was thinking it basically was a human trafficking
Oh.
sort of
Okay. In that context, I would actually recommend that a recommended hotline be like OCSD's anti-human trafficking
yeah.
task force. Is that their name?
It's just the team, yeah. It's just sheriff's personnel, so it wouldn't be a task force, but our human trafficking team or detail.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I wouldn't want a call to come into us that takes us a day or so to forward
Right.
to people that would, because we're not going to verify the violation. If somebody calls and says, I think that there are people being trafficked at a hotel, that there's nothing for code compliance to do on that.
Well, yeah, priority 2 and
Other
3
than
really
forward
were
it.
code compliance. These are go to the city. These like priority 2. That's what St. Laurent Capistrano is really doing. Chris Duncan wants things to be proactive and actually get things. So priority 2 is a pretty important thing because City San Clemente's not doing enough of that. So that's why that's up there. And it's not Adam's department that is going to do that necessarily. And the city council wants him to do it, then I suppose that could be done. But that was not the intent. Priority 1 was
Yeah.
the areas and 2 and 3 are for the city council and staff to figure out, okay, now how are we going to be a proactive city in addressing this issue?
So for that item, we could
Yeah.
have staff to investigate opportunities to develop a direct portal for human trafficking concerns.
Yeah, maybe it just goes right to the sheriff's department. I don't know.
Yeah, we've got. We've got email addresses for very specific things.
Right.
Community outreach
You
has its
could
own.
easily, on a hypertext, on the city's website, you have this thing. If the person that's reporting this thing thinks it's that serious, you can push the OCSD hyperlink and it goes to their stuff.
So you talk.
Okay, so let's do that. We'll put it to staff.
Something like, yeah.
Yeah, staff to investigate ways of improving community or public submission of complaints related. Communications related to human trafficking.
It's all communications.
Okay. So then I want to step back to something you just said. So are all 3 priorities and their related action items, are these all intended to be recommended to the council? Or were you just talking about the priority one?
No, all 3 priorities, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've covered all that. If just to put a button on the recommendations, if you want to vote on that now, you can do that. But I do want to talk about next steps for where this project goes and how we get it there.
Well, we're still in discussion type thing, right?
Yes.
Okay. And we haven't made a motion on doing this thing?
No.
Okay. How about we go on this one, because it may have some, it may change our
I got a
motion on
question.
this
Yeah,
one.
just a question first. You talked about massage parlors up there, that code enforcement does handle that, and other things you don't. It goes OCSD. So if someone, if we have a hotline or whatever we're gonna have, someone's gonna have to triage that, because some things, if I go to a massage parlor and something's not going right there, well, then I'm reporting to the city. But if something's going on in a hotel that doesn't seem right, labor or whatever, then it goes OCSD. So is there gonna be some kind of triage thing for someone, to do it?
We could address both,
It would come
whether
first.
it's massage or hotel
So
or
then-
private residence or back of a van, or we get complaints for all of it.
So
Because they're 24-hour.
And so that's the best thing then, to,
But you could easily add a
That
link,
team-
a part of the webpage, the city's webpage, that is just resources reference human trafficking. There's dozens of support groups out there, like the I-5 Freedom Network, because not everyone wants to report something to the police. Sometimes they're just looking for help out or a resource, like a different job where they don't need to do that anymore. So you might have a part of the webpage where you list like the Crime Stoppers phone number or number where people can anonymously give information, or the Sheriff's Department number, or I-5 Freedom Network or similar outreach groups that might be able to help someone that's in that situation or thinks they know something, right? And then at least they can decide, okay, this is the most appropriate, I'll call sheriffs, or I don't want to call sheriffs, I'll call outreach.
Yeah. So with these recommendations, council would give us the direction of what they'd like, and I think that type of, and we will typically give the council a menu of options, and so that would be, that I can tell you that would definitely be one of our recommended options, and so Captain Benfield and I can work on that. Work on that. As far as the process and procedure for this, the next stop for this item will be the City Council as a standalone recommendation. I believe that the council wanted it back, I'm going to say the April 19th meeting.
Well, it gives you 4 weeks.
Yeah, so staff will draft a report. In this case, we're looking for direction from the city council, which makes it pretty straightforward and nice. But we'll draft that, and this is something, since it's a recommendation, I'm gonna have to look back at how I think they directed staff to work with, to work with the Public Safety Committee and the Massage Establishment Subcommittee of the Council to develop recommendations to bring back to the council.
Right. Okay.
So if that's how it was worded, then I would probably present this item. But if it was worded more like get the recommendations from the Public Safety Committee, then it would be written for you to present, and then I would be there to assist.
Yeah.
But I think it's the former because they generally give pretty specific direction. It's similar to the direction they gave to the storage of personal property in public and the shopping carts thing, which was presented by staff.
What you're talking about is we got to work with this subcommittee of the city council. Do we get this draft and send it to the subcommittee, and then it's all presented because it's all signed off by both parties? I don't know.
The subcommittee is part of the council. They'll have their way in that, but
Sure.
They've technically been worked with since you and
The subcommittee is Gene
member.
James and Chris Duncan, is it?
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
So
Yeah, I want to procedurally. I didn't want to step on somebody's toes on this thing.
They handed it off to us.
Well, I know, but
Yeah.
do we
Oh, well.
send it directly to the city council, or do we, hey, this is what we came up with. Would you like it or not?
It'd be a good
You know?
idea to do that, right?
so let's do this.
Because we got to
you
sell
wouldn't
it to the
mind-
city council, and if these
Yeah.
guys are not happy, you ain't going to sell.
Right.
This. Do you know where this PowerPoint's located? It's in the 222. You saw the.
Oh yeah, the city clerk thing.
No, it's in our Community Development Administration Committees folder, and it's in the doc. It's like in the documents for the February 22nd meeting. If you wouldn't mind ripping all of the text off of this slide,
Sure.
and then as you're going through the minutes, and actually I'll send you the draft of the additional items that we added to priority 1. If you could just rewrite this so that it includes everything that was
Absolutely.
discussed here today. Once we have that, I'll provide that to you and you can discuss with the subcommittee members. And then,
Yeah.
the council as a whole asked for this back rather quickly. So we'll start drafting it. If there's some additional modifications, let me know. But the recommendation will be from the Public Safety Committee as far as what we've done here. If there is a desire for anything different, we'll identify that in the staff report so it's clear who's making what recommendations.
It works. I just want to get the wrong procedure and it gets delayed another month. Because the bureaucracy always kills us. Always.
Implementation.
Okay.
So
when you get this thing done, can you send me a copy? I can take a look at it.
yeah,
And Rick too. We'll send Rick
by
a
early
copy.
next week, do you think? Yeah.
Okay, good.
And we'll just have, Rebecca will send it out as a blind copy to everybody,
Good.
so you have it.
It's not a violation of the Brown Act or anything?
Not as long as
Davis?
it's a blind copy.
Oh, okay.
All right.
Okay, so
Anything else?
that's all I've got.
Oh, we want to make a motion to actually do
I
this.
can't make a motion.
You're right. We
Invite
gotta do
you guys
that.
to make a motion.
All right.
Unless there's more discussion, in which case, please.
Let's see. Well, okay.
Where's Rick?
I move, yes, that the 3 priority items that the, what was our task called? Public Safety Committee, Human Massage Parlor Task Committee, Subcommittee, defined through study for the last several months, be organized in a fashion that can be presented to both the City Council Subcommittee and upon approval by membership of the committee, then taken before the city council by Mr. Attainment. Is that, you gonna take it?
We could just
Wait, we
put
gotta
staff.
we just have to decide that
just
now.
staff.
Yeah, whoever's appropriate, presented to the city. Did you get any of that?
Yes.
Yeah, those are tough. Where's Rick?
Yeah, he's good at that. Okay. Well, that's my first motion on this committee, so
That cover everything?
The only thing I would add is
Yeah.
with the edits discussed while we read
Oh, that's, okay.
the priorities.
Yeah, with the additional information that was presented on priority one.
One second.
Is that my cue?
Or shall I?
I'll second it.
All in favor, raise your hand.
Aye.
Yeah, there's 3 votes there, so.
I liked when you said last meeting, whatever Adam said.
Whatever.
It's hard to do.
No fooling.
Give him some credit.
I didn't see you jumping in there.
Okay, traffic and e-bike safety project update. Anything on that one at all? Any,
Well, they're still riding a lot of e-bikes on a trail.
Oh,
They didn't
Yeah.
have signs yet.
there was, well, that's not quite true. There was a park ranger yesterday when I was down there with my wife. I don't know, he one of your people down there. He was very nice, and he told me he was informing people about the new ordinance and so forth, handling it very well. And then if another park ranger came up a little bit later, so.
Did you see any
And
signs?
there was a dearth of e-bikes on the trail. They were not very many. People are getting the word.
well, the outsiders
E-bike.
ran them
Did you see
down the street and
Did you see
They-
any
they-
signs?
Not e-bikes, regular bikes.
oh,
Did
regular.
you see any signs written?
Pardon?
Did you see any signs prohibiting e-bikes?
This sign's kind of small, but it's there, yes.
Well, there's been an old sign there by the
There-
pier that said walk bicycles. I know of that
No,
one.
they had that plastic folding thing with a sign on
Oh,
it. It was
okay,
about
well,
like that.
I know when you start walking at North Beach,
Right,
coming
that's where it
through.
is.
No, I didn't see a sign there.
That's where we started, and that's where it is
You
now.
saw it?
Yeah, it's chained. The
It's a
sign is
plastic one?
chained to the fire pole.
No, I read that
Yeah.
placard in a basic piece of paper, but it addressed e-bikes. I didn't see bicycles on there.
No, bicycles are allowed.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Actually-
other bicycles are allowed.
That ordinance did restrict where bicycles are allowed as well.
Oh, yeah.
So bicycles are no longer allowed on the pier.
Yeah.
Right. I can't even walk them.
Yeah, you can't walk them, you can't lock them. And then that also applies to the base of pier,
Where it's on blacktop.
the blacktop area. Yeah. But most of it, yes.
Yeah, when we walked Saturday, last Saturday, there's a lot of bikes on
E-bikes,
Oh,
no,
yeah.
regular bikes
there.
there
No,
are.
e-bikes.
E-bike, yeah. Well, there were certainly,
Yeah.
not no, Sunday is when I went down there, which is a pretty busy
Maybe they're
day.
getting the
We saw-
word.
Yeah.
It's going to get warmer, and we're going to see more of it.
Yeah. Well, the park ranger, they were, I was there, I was impressed.
The
He was right on top of the bridge there when you come down.
Yeah,
where it says walk bike.
right, they didn't know what was it, yeah.
Yeah, look, you know, you
That's
can't
where it's
assume they can
That's
read.
where it's really dangerous when they're zipping down that bridge.
Oh, yeah, but yeah, it's take your life in your hands. That's for sure. But oh, I know what to say. Beaches, Parks, and Recreation. Samantha Wiley told me
Ah.
that Memorial Day is their target for total signage and whatever they have to do there.
Well, well, I was told by their park ranger that right now, this is more a community communication effort.
Education.
But he also mentions in another month or two, there's gonna be a $100 fine if you do that, so that's got some teeth in it.
Well, yeah, but it's got to be actually done.
Well,
Yeah, that's the other thing.
yeah, well, you don't wanna come down, right now.
No, but I mean, you warn them, and at some
Right.
point you've got to start
Yeah.
and make an example.
Yeah.
Well, you're the park ranger director, manager, so what's your plan there?
Well, this is something we're still working on. We have the resources for 2 park rangers on Saturdays and Sundays during the day during the week, we have the resources for one. And one person is not going to be able to stop bicycles. We know because we're currently trying to get people to stop so we can talk to them, and they just will blow by it. So, you know, well, it will assist to the extent that we can, but between dealing with homeless encampments at city properties and everything else that the park rangers are tasked with, there'll be maybe a couple hours, hopefully a couple hours a day, per day to deal with bicycles.
Oh, that's great. I mean, this ordinance had a tremendous impact, and people are really appreciating, you know, what the city council has done with this. And in fact, you got people down there now. I mean, that was the biggest complaint I heard from people, that, well, they're not enforcing it, you know. Well, now, call it a token enforcement, but at least there is presence there.
Yeah.
And it's had an impact. It really has. There are a lot of people come from out of town, too, down there on the weekends. They have no idea that, oh, you know, and they look at the sign
It's
and,
been restricted, sorry.
yeah. Those, I think, are the people that were probably
Maybe
more
when
right.
full size gets up, I think that'd be better.
You need a bigger
Like
sign.
when I walked, I wouldn't have known that you couldn't ride an
It's
e-bike.
very tiny.
I wouldn't have known, yeah.
You know, it's an education, public education at this point.
The other thing, they were putting bicycle racks, new ones, down there by the lifeguard station. And they're so far removed from the area there, the bikes aren't supposed to be, you know, down in the area on the pier. Because I thought, well, they don't want people riding their electric bikes down to the foot of the pier and then just laying them on the sidewalk or something like
Yeah.
that. But those bike racks are way too far away, because legally they can't go down to the bike racks, because that's part of the trail. Or it's that driveway anyway that goes down there. And
I remember a plan to install more bike racks where the RSVP hut is. I don't know what the timetable on. I think that hut's going away. Is that accurate or getting moved?
I haven't heard. I'll have to ask about their little.
Yeah.
Space.
In that area, there were supposed to be some more bike racks, so that because people could walk their
Right.
e-bikes to that area.
Right.
But yeah, I think you're talking further down by the
Yeah, they were
bathrooms.
way down there. Yeah.
Yeah, those would only be able to be used by non-e-bikes, by non-electrified
Pedal
bikes.
bikes,
Regular bikes,
People just going to the
Old-fashioned bicycles.
yeah, people powered. Okay, any more? All right, now we get into this consideration of bicycle repair ordinance. Adam, can you help us out
Yes,
with this
sir.
one?
Okay, this is another council request to review the possibility of a bicycle repair ordinance. Attached to your agenda was an example bicycle repair ordinance. It is the second. It is the under the second item tab in your binder. Ultimately, there has been some concern about the amount of either bicycle storage or bicycle repair that is being done in public. This example ordinance is from the city of Long Beach, and it covers a number of activities that can be carried out in public with the intent of restricting or prohibiting a certain amount of activity to tamp down on the amount of bicycle repair and bicycle business that's conducted in public. It's rather straightforward. I will say, though, from my experience reading this ordinance, I'm not really sure how far this is going to go in helping tamp down on what occurs. And by that, I mean that the main section of this ordinance to regulate these activities is on page 2 of the example. It's section 1049.010 of the Long Beach Municipal Code. It's titled "Repairs and Sales on public property prohibited, and it goes on to state, except where otherwise stated in this chapter, no person shall assemble, disassemble, sell, offer to sell, distribute, offer to distribute, or store the following items on any street, sidewalk, alley, public passageway, public right-of-way, public beach, public park, or other public property. Item A under this is 3 or more bicycles. Item B is a bicycle frame with the gear cables or brake cables cut. Item 2 is 2 or more bicycles with missing parts. The fourth item is 5 or more bicycle parts. I think part of the issue here is somebody with 2 bicycles and 4 bicycle parts is...
Are we seeing that in the city somewhere?
Well, the question is, do we really have the problem? Do a lot of people use bikes to commute to work here in San Clemente? And the second one, are we getting a lot of stolen bicycles? I mean, that's really what this is about.
We are getting
Do
a lot
we
of
have
stolen
those
Yeah, we're
problems?
getting a lot of stolen bicycles, but
Yeah,
I'm
I
just
don't.
not sure. I'm just not sure if this is going to be another one of those enforceable ordinances or not.
I mean, it
Sometimes
sounds
the
like
time and
common,
effort
yeah.
Sometimes the time and effort
You know
you
what?
spend doing this.
But there's wordage lacking in that description,
It's really, well, it's weak, yeah.
which is prohibition of repairs.
Well, somehow they've related that to the fact that it's a stolen bicycle that's being repaired in
Right,
public
but
or
I-
sold.
but
But that's a,
I'm thinking of something else.
Okay.
There's when we have these bike meets, around the Rose Bowl, they had a bunch of, and there's guys that show up there that are professional repair people. And if you break down, you go over there and he fixes it up for you. Well, this one on chapter heading says prohibition of repairs on public, but this one, there's no repair on here. I don't know.
So I think what they were attempting to do was to get away. I don't know why they didn't include the word repair. It is described in the exceptions below.
Yeah, it is.
The exceptions below cover the situation you're talking about where you have a bike meet and somebody's repairing it.
Mhm.
Assuming there would be a city issued permit for the bike meet, then
Right.
whatever they're doing is fine. However, item B is the owner of a bicycle or bicycle part is present during his repair of his or her single bicycle or bicycle part. Supporting evidence for a claim of lawful ownership may include, but is not limited to, video or photographic evidence, a bill of sale, the correct serial number, bicycle registration, and the like.
That would cover that.
That's nice that they're asking for evidence in this particular case, but that's just this somehow.
Can I make a motion? A motion that we do not recommend this to the city council.
And to refer it back to staff for,
No, it's not, don't recommend it. If we have a problem down the road, we'll then bring it back. But right now, this is
but
stuff.
isn't this what the city council wanted?
This is
to
what
look at?
they asked for the public safety
That's my
committees.
motion.
well, I think we
Input.
should, well,
And I'm more than happy. I can provide some additional information about what I believe the problem to be. And I'll just say we do have people at the North Beach train station from time to time who have a lot of bicycles on them and who have painted those bicycles and done repairs on bicycles that they may or may not own.
You think this is a remedy to it?
I would make some rather substantial changes to this particular example.
That's my motion. If I don't have a second, that's fine.
I'll second that. Yeah, just get the discussion out. I think that, that works for Long Beach, but it could be a framework, but it's kind of, we have to describe the problem we've got better, I think.
well,
Yeah, we got
I
too
think
many
we need to
questions.
ask the expert in the room down on the end of the table here, our police chief, is this really a problem? Do we have people whose bikes they're commuting and their bikes are getting stolen and they're being repaired and resold on the street? I mean, do you have any evidence of that? At least we're doing diligence. and
There are
asking an expert.
bicycles being stolen all the time.
But are they?
But are we gonna be able to enforce this, anything like this? No. So that's,
Some of the things are good in here about, and we brought it up before, everybody should know what the serial number is on your bicycle, you know?
I don't know
You know,
what
that would
mine
be
is.
a good ordinance, you know, get the bike license for bikes.
Penalize the
Yeah,
owner.
go back,
we
go
have
back
too
to,
many important things going on right now in the city and in life in general to worry about something like this.
well, I'd like the city to know that we at least talked to the police chief about the problem. Did he agree there was a severe problem here that we had to, really would make a recommendation? Put you on the spot, maybe you just, you know. It's like a feel-good kind of, pardon?
Bikes get stolen all the time here.
Yeah.
All the, especially e-bikes, all the time.
Are they?
And serial numbers are the problem. Nobody knows their serial number. So even if we find them, we can't take them. This ordinance, I don't know how it would address. You could cite someone clearly if they had multiple bicycles, or they're essentially. When I read this, I think they're chopping up the bike to sell the parts,
Right.
or to make it not look like the bike that they just stole. But none of that gives us the lawful authority to seize these bicycles. We could cite the person, I think, for having too many bikes, and then what do? You send them where do they go?
Yeah, and then if it's under $900, they get a ticket. Nothing gets done.
And then you have to
So,
store
yeah.
the parts.
So why are we wasting our time?
Anyway,
Well,
motion on
I
the
would probably make
table.
a friendly modification to his motion,
Well,
where maybe we
okay.
should add something a little bit more positive, like the
My motion on the
recommend.
table.
Yeah,
Okay, you don't like my friendly motion?
well,
No.
you can make another
Okay.
motion after this, but let's call for the question, okay?
It was my understanding you have to vote on the amendment first and then vote on the motion.
Okay, all right.
Only if he got a second.
He got a second, yeah.
I give him a second.
Yeah, there's a motion, there's a second to that motion, there's a
I haven't done
motion for a friendly amendment, and there's no second to that.
Okay.
So that just dies.
We
So-
have a vote?
All in favor of Joe's motion to kill this thing?
Aye.
There you go.
I,
So move, Sarah.
You know, we gotta come back with,
I know your engineer mind thinks different from mine.
oh, no,
Small
I
mind.
thought this was really kind of silly, frankly.
So we talking, your due diligence.
All right. We talked to the expert.
all right. Unfinished business?
We covered that in
Right,
previous section.
we did.
We'll make the minutes reflect
Okay,
that.
at least we addressed it. Reports from the committee, police services. Boy, you waited this long.
Just a couple quick things. We have essentially Coffee with a Cop Thursday, but it's titled Cones with Cops and Lifeguards. So we're teaming up with Marine Safety as we threatened a few months back. We're going to be down at the pier with Rod Malot's crew, discussing bicycle rules and regulations, e-bike rules in particular, the new ban on the trails with the public. So that's been advertised on all the sites, the city site, the lifeguard site, and our site.
Can you give me a date?
We're going to be there Thursday.
This Thursday?
24th, yep. And we're going to be there from 2 to 4. And Fisherman's is hosting, they're going to be giving out free ice cream.
2 to 4?
2 to 4. The other item, we've brought back the San Clemente Citizen Academy, and that went out last week on various platforms. That's open right now through the city website, and the link is on there if you want to fill out an application or you know someone that you think might be interested. It's 8 consecutive Thursdays, and they're going to take you on a tour around all sheriffs and San Clemente Police Services locations, to include like dispatch and the coroner's office and one of the jails. I think there's an optional range day in there to see the tactical shooting center. So that's out there. We're just getting that out for the public to see if there's an interest. And I know it used to be very popular, then COVID hit. We had a couple of years of no Citizen Academy, and so now we're bringing it back, hoping to get a good turnout.
What were the dates on that again?
That's running from April 14th until June 2nd. It's basically every Thursday.
Do you have a flyer for that coffee at the pier?
I'll send you one.
Okay, yeah, I can put it on my watch group.
If you send it to all of us,
For sure.
Yeah.
because we'll,
Yeah, that would be something great when we get the neighborhood watch thing going, all the block cams. get one of those things.
Boy, yeah, great.
Yeah.
We distribute it, yeah.
Thanks, Tony.
Anything more, Tony?
That's it.
Okay, thank you. Fire services, the chief's not here. Adam, do you have anything that he wanted to bring up?
I do not.
Okay.
What did we
And
do on his recommendations for the two out, two in sort of thing? He had that whole list. We had a motion on that to
Right.
recommend that. Did we actually do that?
well, let's ask the staff person on that.
No, okay.
On that, Capobianco's recommendation to codify the fourth person on the rigs.
Yes.
Where's the status on that one?
That one, it's a draft ordinance is being worked on by the city attorney's office in conjunction with OCFA staff.
Good. Okay, and marine safety, anything? I've got one thing. Tomorrow, Rod Malott and Kyle Kroger will be meeting regarding, this is National Tsunami Week we're in, and they're going to have a drill down at the lifeguard station tomorrow, so just FYI on that one. Okay. Just a point of interest, I'm working on something like a public safety thing. It's what do you do with old smoke detectors that don't work anymore, that have a radiological device in it?
Yeah.
Wanna know what I do with it?
CRNR will take
I don't wanna know.
it legally.
So the dump has, I think, I'm not sure if it's every Tuesday or not, but they take hazardous materials, they take paint and everything like that. It's not a charge, so you have to find out what day it is. But they take things in at the dump.
I don't think they take radiation. I tried that one time, unless they
They don't take
changed.
smoke detectors?
No, it's got
If
radium or some kind of
It's
radioactive
like,
material in it. Yeah.
Americonium. Anyway, just to let you know, I did try that, and I got rejected.
Oh,
So I
yeah,
called,
Yeah.
and they said blah blah blah, and they gave me some code sections, and the code sections didn't mean anything. So, but they said you can either get a hold of the manufacturer or you call these different places. And one place that I called was they wanted it, if you have one that you're trying to get rid of, up to something that would fill up a 55-gallon drum, that many,
Yeah.
capacity, $2,000.
Yeah.
That got my attention. So I'm working with waste management from the county, and I'm trying to get them to give me a code section, because some of these sections from the state say you just throw it in the trash. Well, this alpha emitter, which is a radiological thing, alpha rays, it's okay, a piece of paper will block it, or your skin, dead scales will block it. The problem comes in is if you put it in the trash, and there's a possibility in a landfill that it could get into the water system and somebody could drink it, you know, an internal, and you will have cancer. That's not good. Okay. So I'm working on that one. It's just a scratch my head on
You
it.
can't be
I
the
never
only
thought-
one, though. Did you
never
do
thought in my
internet
life I was
research
hearing
on
about
that?
smoke
Yeah.
detectors.
Oh, it costs as much. Now, I found that Kidda, who makes mine,
Right.
will take it back after they give me an authorization to send it in, which will take 2 to 4 weeks at my expense. So it's going to cost as much to send it in as it was to buy the darn thing. I can't get rid of the damn thing. So just FYI, I'm working on that, and I'll have more on
That's a
it. It's
tough
just
problem. Yeah.
it's just a weird thing, because the people at the waste management, they go like this,
Mhm.
So
and
where did you say you saw that it said just throw it away? Where did you see that?
it was a code section for the state And
So why do we question that
but it says unless the local
authority?
authority, and I'm trying to get
So it's
local
not,
authority.
so we have, our
So-
municipality hasn't adopted that.
Well,
Might be
it's
the
a
county level,
waste.
yeah.
It's a county
County
waste.
owns it, yeah.
I'm looking for their code section that says you will not put it in. And the best thing is they suggest that. So anyway,
It's a
Have you-
business opportunity for somebody then, go out 55-gallon drums and have people give them to you, charge them $1.
Have you contacted
Email address.
Deanna McIntosh with environmental programs here in the city?
no.
Yeah. She deals with our franchise waste hauler, which
Okay.
is CR&R,
Yeah.
a lot. I'm pretty sure they use the county's dumps, but they might have some other programs.
Macintosh?
Yes. It's Dana, DANNA.
So the email will be McIntosh D at.
Okay. He's looking up the
I'm
number.
just seeing if she's got a number I can.
Okay. In the meantime, yes.
See what you can do with email.
Okay, I think I should.
I'll get your number.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Committee members.
Nothing.
Well, I was at a South Orange County Radio Amateur Association meeting last night, actually, and Charlie Spielman, who's the Amateur Radio Emergency System Emergency Coordinator, was there for Mission Viejo races, Tri-Cities races, and they're having an exercise this Saturday over at the Laguna Niguel Emergency Operating Center. So you have to coordinate with him, to be able to get in the EOC and observe that. So I plan to go over there and take a look at how they do that, how their EOC is set up, and how races integrates with the rest of what's going on.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
You might even run into Bill.
I was going to call him and ask him about that.
So, okay. Anything for the good of the cause of city staff now?
I have one announcement, and unfortunately it's not a happy one. Last week, Code Compliance's administrative support staff, her name was Angela Boone, she died unexpectedly on Sunday, March 13th. And she was a tremendous asset to the city, but she was also a wonderful person, a wonderful friend. Everybody that worked with her for the past couple of years in that division considered her like a sister. I was fortunate enough to work with her for the last 6 years when I went into Code Compliance. She was the last remaining person of that original team that I took over, and none of the work that that division has done over the last 6 years, the improvements that we've made, would have been possible without her. Last week was a very hard week. We are scraping by right now. We're covering, everything that we need to, and fortunately, the city was in the recruitment process for office specialists for other divisions, anyways, and so we are not going to. It's not going to take very long to get somebody to cover what Angela covered. However, replacing who she was will never happen, and we are just we're heartbroken about it. Last week's council meeting was adjourned in her honor. The city service awards, which are tomorrow, are being held in her honor, and I just wanted to announce that what a terrible loss this has been for our department and the city family as a whole.
How many years did she work for the city?
She was here for 10 years.
Okay.
Almost 11.
Yeah, she was a fixture.
Yeah.
Our condolences to your staff and to you.
Yeah.
Yeah, we were lucky enough. Her sisters came to visit last Thursday. We had a potluck, and then her memorial. It's a memorial because she it's going to be in San Diego on Friday, and then she'll be buried in, I believe it's her hometown in Mississippi.
Gotcha.
Yeah,
Okay. It's a tough one.
it is.
Yeah. Do you have anything other things in the business?
That is all I have to report out at this time.
Okay. All right. So,
When's the next meeting?
I move that we adjourn to the next regular meeting of the Public Safety Committee to be held on Tuesday, April 26, 2022 at 3 p.m. in the community room of the City Hall, 910 Calais Negatio, Suite of 100, San Clemente.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Done.